Welcome to Modern Mystic Messages. I'm Teresa. Glad to have you by today. I'm going to wait just a few minutes to let some folks get in here. As you'll see, and when you're watching the replay or as you're coming in, this is a special request. It's kind of a continuation of our discussion from yesterday. But I'm just gonna wait for a couple folks to get in here so we can see what's going on. And let me see. I'm gonna go here. There we go. All right. And actually, I think I got the wrong lighting here, so bear with me a second. I'm gonna fix that too. Yeah. There we go. That's better. All right. And until we get some folks in here, I think we're gonna maybe I'll pull a couple cards to get the temperature set for the reading today. And since we are in the Gospel of John, I'm going to start with a Christ consciousness card to see the direction of this reading and perhaps the law of attraction and see where we go from there. Okay. And hello, whomever just came into the chat, welcome, or came into the live, excuse me. Not in the chat just yet, but I hope you will. Say hi. Holy Grail, Sacred Union. Okay, now we kind of sort of talked about that a little bit yesterday. Hi, Enrique, how are you? Hi, Richie. Hi. Welcome in, your baddie. Welcome in. Glimmer Star. Okay, maybe not. Welcome in, though, just the same. Thank you, Nitro. Welcome in. Hi, Michael. Elias, welcome in. Sending love and light to you too. Right back at you. And just so you know, this is kind of a special request. Our subject for tonight is going to be discussing some things in the Gospel of John as it pertains to paleo contact and kind of an open forum. I'm not going to openly pray on this live stream because it is welcome to people of all faiths and whatever we have, as long as we're keeping it respectful and classy. But I do want you to know I have taken the time to call in my spirit guides and angels, particularly Archangel Michael, Archangel Raphael, Yeshua, Archangel Metatron, and Lord Enki. So just be aware that I've asked for a wall of protection around me and you, because of course time is quantum and so is space. So the fact that we are here together in intention, we are here together. And Muskie, welcome. Hi. And R, hi to you too. So yeah, I'm gonna give just a moment for a couple folks to get in here. I'm hoping one of my moderators will pop on in. Oh, you're welcome, Michael. Yeah, I have to, like I said, people don't understand just how seriously I take this. And look at here, just like that, spiritual protection came out. Because I know there are some folks, and resurrection came out too. There are some folks that really don't think that I take this seriously just because I don't happen to agree with their traditional thinking. But I don't even get upset with that because for a long time I was exactly like them. I've come to the things that I'm saying after careful prayer, meditation, study, looking at things back and forth over and over. Hi, Alan. I'm not really doing personal readings today. We are here for a discussion of the Gospel of John. I just have a deck that is focused on Christ consciousness. So allowing a few folks to get in before we get started. I was just pulling a couple cards from that and from the Metatron deck. and then perhaps from the the universal laws deck, so that if we get a little lag in the conversation, we can look up some of those meanings as well. What we're gonna do, Rabbity, is get you right on up out of here. We're not having that here. I'm not trying to call offense to anyone. We're here to teach and learn and grow. We're not here for that. Now, I'm gonna try to be nice. If you'd like to stay and behave, you can. But another comment like that, and you'll be removed entirely. We don't do that here. Okay. I would encourage you, Alan, to understand who Yeshua is. You will never hear me, or I ain't gonna say never, habits die hard. I try not to refer to Yeshua HaMashiach as Jesus, because under the Christian tradition, Jesus means hail Zeus, which is leading people back to Yahweh, which is entirely against what Yeshua was actually teaching. That's a very pat Christian phrase, have a bananas. We don't do that here either, because that's not what Yeshua was teaching. And if you actually understood what you are doing when you wrap yourself in those pat Christian blinding spells and binding spells, most people would stop. Hi, your girl JJ. You're welcome here, dear. You are so very welcome here. I'm gonna just grab a couple of these cards, and then, like I said, we are gonna get started. Well, exactly. The life of this world is the enjoyment of delusion, and the whole world is lying in the power of the wicked one, namely by worshiping Yahweh. That is exactly what Yeshua was telling people. Jews worship him as Yahweh, Muslims worship him as Allah, and Christians remixed the Yahweh platform and sent it straight on and call him Jehovah. But at the end of the day, Yeshua said, you don't know my father, you worship your father, the devil. Well, Tony Gruesome, that's very narrow-minded of you, sir. If you run around worshiping the vajayjay, you're going to be a sad soul somebody. Because why would you worship mediocrity? Every other person you see on the planet got one of them. That's just so wrong. It's not that you're doing everything wrong, Alan. Nobody is doing everything wrong intentionally. The whole world has been bamboozled, and truly. Okay, but again, you got to really understand what that means, have a banana, and you're not going to come in here and proselytize. We're going to get into the Gospel of John in just a moment, because I need folks to actually see it the way it actually is and not the way the church has put a spin on it. I get it from a lot of different places. Look, if you're here to argue, please leave. I didn't come on your channel and do that. We're not doing that here. If you want to argue, take it someplace else. There are people that are here that would like to learn, and I'm not going to waste my time and disrespect their time by sitting here going back and forth with you, okay? Yeah. Tony Gruesome, you might want to get your mind out of your crotch, because I'm telling you, you really limit yourself in life that way. Hi, Pierre. Yeah. Okay, yeah, we're gonna get on in here and leave them alone in just a second. I'm trying to see where what card came out. Love came, well, it flipped over the other way. I'll pull this later if I need to, because ain't nothing really came out of here right now anyway. Now, we're gonna get into, before we go into the Gospel of John, yesterday, someone had mentioned a scripture in Titus, and I didn't get a chance to look it up then. I did actually look at a few things that I'd like to talk about too. What is this? Bye. No, no, noob. Ain't nobody got no intentions of finding no girlfriends. You know what? Now I'm gonna take a minute to say this, because some obviously we have children in here. They're grown people, but they man children. Any grown man that's asking somebody to find them a mate, ain't got the sense God gave a banana. They really don't. Find your own. Stop being lazy. No, Yeshua is against religion. Yeshua was not teaching religion. Yeshua absolutely was a mystic, dear. Absolutely was. If people understood what he was actually teaching, the things that he was teaching, he was so much pressure on the priest and all of them that they literally ran him out of town at the age of 12. And for 18 years, he was gone. Now, Christians act like they don't have a clue what he was doing. No, Jesus, banana production, you on your way up out of here because Jesus is not God. He never told nobody he was God. We're not going there, okay? I'm gonna put you in timeout if you or hide you. You can stay, but I'm gonna hide your comments because that's not helpful. Yeah. You're not the Alpha and the Omega, and the fact that you would come in here and say that, you are sad and it very much in need of meditation and prayer. You know what, Chloe? I'm happy for you because guess what? You think you saved from the new age isn't new. It's a resurgence of the mystic teachings that Christianity snuffed out. Christians, Muslims, and Jews been declaring they're the only right thing on this planet for 2,000 years, and look at the planet. If Yahweh worship was right, we shouldn't have any wars. We shouldn't have any poverty. We shouldn't have any violence. We should have peace. And ever since Yahwism has been on this planet, there has been absolutely no peace on this planet, period. What does my Bible say at Exodus 6:3? We'll see. But what does the rest of the Bible say too? Let's see what Exodus 6:3 says. Because we're gonna talk about a whole lot of things that the Bible says. I got it right here. But that's part of the problem. Christians want to cherry pick stuff and then blur their eyes against the other glaring things that are actually in here. So Exodus 6:3. Yeah. Oh, I am the Lord. God spoke to Moses. Now remember, God, Elohim, just means powerful ones. It does not mean God in the sense that we said, or we are taught by the church. The powerful one spoke to Moses and said, I am the Lord. I appeared to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob as God Almighty, but by my name I did not make myself known to them. I established my covenant with them to give them the land of Canaan, the land which they lived as sojourners. And honestly, that's what we talked about yesterday. Yahweh promised the land of Canaan to Abraham and to Moses and the nation of Israel, and never gave it to none of them. He was a liar, an interloper. He was an Anunnaki lord without a land or a people. He was exiled once before his other brethren, as was his nephew Marduk, but he promised them the land of Canaan and never delivered it. Never even got it unoccupied. It stayed full of Nephilim. And he told them, there it is, take it or leave it. Yeah. In fact of the matter, when that was one of the scriptures that I was looking at in Hebrews, if you look at Hebrews chapter 11, they go on and on and on. Okay, second coming, you on your way up out of here, you rude self. Bye bye. In Hebrews 11, they go on for 40 verses about faith and what faith is. Basically, that faith means doing it anyway without any physical evidence that something is coming. But at the end of talking about all these faithful people, Noah and Abraham and Job and all the rest of them, all of the faithful men and women that's named in the Bible, they give a laundry list of them and the things that they did. And then at the very end of chapter 11 in Hebrews, verses 39 and 40, it says, and these, though commended through their faith, did not receive what was promised, since God had provided something better for us, that apart from us, they should not be made perfect. For thousands of years, he keep promising these people stuff and then decide if we can't all receive it at one time, then nobody will receive it. And that's his answer to the people that choose to follow him. What the F? I'm not going to no church. Listen, I'm 57 years old. I was raised around the church, and I know I'm not an ordained minister, and I don't need to be an ordained minister. I'm ordained by Yeshua HaMashiach. Because guess what? If I go and get ordained to the temple of lies, I'll be continuing to spread the lies that keep mankind lost. You think Star Wars was a documentary? To some degree, yes. So is Stargate, to some degree. Okay, pieces, deuces, bye. You can leave it. This is the thing that gets me. Why people want to sit by and argue when all they got to do is keep scrolling. That's all. If you're not ready to hear what Yeshua had to say, you don't have to stay. I'm here to speak what Yeshua has put on my heart to speak. When I really was searching and trying to find the truth, it really made me start to wonder when we read in the scriptures about how the Jews offered him up to the Romans. I don't have a religion. A religion is a binding spell. The word religion comes from the Greek word religare, which means to bind or hold back. I stepped away from religion and into spirituality. No, I'm not lying. You can look that up, and you can get up out of here too, Alan Ritchie. You can stay and listen, but we're not doing that. I'm trying to tell you, I don't have time for that. I don't need to read the Quran, Ms. Ra. I've read enough of the Bible and enough of the Torah, parts of the Quran. But here's the thing, if you actually understood what y'all are worshiping, Allah, Yahweh, and Jehovah are the same being. He's been known in different pantheons throughout time by many different names. When he first came to this planet, his name was Enlil. When he was in the Nordic pantheon, he's known as Odin. In the Greek pantheon, he was Zeus. In the several other pantheons he's been in, he's also been known as Dionysus, as Yao, as Beelzebub, as Baal, and his name to the Gnostics, they know him as Yaldabaoth, the dragon. People don't understand what they're talking about. Yeah, you said John Hendrick Clark said the same thing, because if people actually understood these documents that they've been uncovering, we had an excuse for ignorance 100 years ago because most of these ancient texts had not been found and translated at that point. But they found the Nag Hammadi library. They found a library at Nineveh. They found the Dead Sea Scrolls. They've been finding all of these archaeological digging that they've been doing around the planet for the last 200-300 years. They've been finding all kinds of ancient and sacred texts that are unraveling the lies that we've had. I'm not saying that none of the stuff in the scriptures is true, but you got to understand this book right here. We're told it's the infallible word of God. It's here to teach and reprove and set things straight. But the problem is, you know what, Bob the Revlon, whatever, bye-bye. Ain't nobody dancing for you, Habibi. You can go to, you can be hidden too. Do I have any of my regulars in here yet that are willing to be a moderator for me? Hey, Antoine. Oh, brother, I am happy to see you. Happy to see you. Can you moderate? If you say so. In my opinion, Lana, people that have religion are the ones that are lost. Thank you, love. I appreciate you. People that are wanting to cling to religion, despite the fact that overwhelming evidence has been here to show people that they have been lied to and misled, and yet they still cling to the lie, those are the ones that are lost. Thank you, Pushki. Appreciate you. Now let's get on in here because I did promise we were going to discuss John, so I don't have the time to keep continuing to go back with all of that stuff because, yeah. Now, before we get into the discussion in the Gospel of John, I want to lay a couple of groundworks. Anyway, okay, Lana, yeah. Hey, Shelly, good to have you back. Yay, yay, yay. Exactly. That's his story, and they've tampered with the books. There's enough truth. I'm not saying there's nothing good in here. There's a lot of good information in here, but this is a very truncated, redacted, remixed, and deliberately skewed account. They've taken a lot of stuff from a lot of different ancient texts and remixed it and mashed it up and put it here like they found it. They would like to have people in their ignorance. They would like to have people think that they dug all 66 of these books out the ground together and they came together as a match set. They absolutely did not. There is over 100,000 years worth of history in here, according to the older texts that they found, the Anunnaki and the Sumerian and the Babylonian texts that don't contradict the Bible. They give further context and information about the Bible. When they found the Sumerian kings list and all of that, they were able to confirm some things, but it also confirmed that the timeline that Christianity has put forth here is way off. We were given a story to fit a narrative. It's not a religion, dear. I'm trying to help people break free from religion. Bye bye, Aries. You got Aries North Node in here. You gonna talk about something being a false prophet? Okay, you believe that if you want to. Hey, Trevor. So now, when we go into, I got as much authority as anybody else. I'm on my channel, so that give me plenty of authority. If you don't like it, keep scrolling. The scripture is speaking of him with exactly. The scriptures better busy talking about Yeshua, but they just as corrupted as they want to be. For real. That's one of the reasons I went to the Gospel of John as opposed to the other Gospels, because they know for a fact that Matthew, Mark, and Luke most likely never met Yeshua. The only one of the so-called apostles that wrote Gospels that may have met Yeshua, and according to the book did, was John. And there are some, if you look into the lineages, it is said that John was the cousin of Yeshua. Just like when Yeshua started traveling and all of that. Oh my goodness, I can't think of his name. Joseph of Arimathea was his uncle, a very wealthy shipping magnate. Hey, Created for Greatness. Good to see you. Good to see you. Now, as we go into John, we're going to talk about, well, a couple of things. If we remember, and again, before we go into John, I want to go back to Matthew, or actually, was it in Matthew or Mark? No, in Mark. In Mark, it talks about when Yeshua, not, it doesn't go back to the story of his birth and all of that, but it talks about Jesus coming from Nazareth of Galilee, and this is chapter 1 and verse I can't even have C. In verse 9. Wait a minute. Yeah. It says, in those days, Jesus came from Nazareth of Galilee and was baptized by John in the Jordan. And when he came up out of the water, immediately he saw the heavens being torn open, and the Spirit descended on him like a dove, and a voice came from heaven, you are my beloved Son, with whom you I am well pleased. Now, different translations say it slightly different, but when Yeshua was baptized, we saw the dove in the cloud and all of they keep, because somebody said something last night about coming in the cloud. Every time the Anunnaki showed up to humans, they came in fire, smoke, cloud, all of that stuff. I refute all religion because they're all the same. All the Yahwist religions are the same. If I was going to have to pick a religion, it's not even a religion, it would be a philosophy. The Inkyite philosophies are not religions. Buddhism, Jainism, Taoism, those type ways of teaching and being are not religions. No, I'm not an atheist. The creator of all this planet displays intelligent design. Anybody that thinks there was no design here ain't looked around. But what we are put before us as gods are not. They were Anunnaki beings that came here, and when they said, let us make man in our image, they modified a primate that the divine creator of all had already put here. This planet was basically terraformed and basic bioform, but there was no sentient life here when they got here according to them. Well, you can be a Hebrew Israelite all you want. That's on you. Keep doing you. If you want to stay lost, stay lost. Do that. It ain't possible for anybody to prove anything, including and especially Christianity, Islam, or Judaism. You can't prove that. Because how you going to prove something off of a made-up book? Christianity didn't even become a thing until almost 300 years after Yeshua was executed. The Bible, the religion, all of that, the first Council of Nicaea happened in 325 AD. 295 years after they said they executed Yeshua. So everybody that had any association with it, with Yeshua, was in the ground along with him at that point. And it wasn't even created by somebody that was a believer or a follower of Yeshua's ways. It was done by Constantine, who was a sun worshiper. That's why Christianity got all them crosses and circles. That was a seal of the sun. The S-U-N ain't had nothing to do with the Son of God. Nothing. And truthfully, the Son of Man, Thoth was referred to as the Son of Man, just like Yeshua was referred to the Son of Man. Thoth was called the Logos, just like Yeshua was called the Logos. How do I know it's made up? Because they wrote records that they made it up. And again, I just told you, I read the whole dissertation on faith, and at the end of all of that, it tells you, if you actually read the scriptures with understanding instead of just, you have to really cross your eyes and reach hard to buy the nonsense that religion teaches you. You really do. It's a stretch for real. When you actually understand that in the translation, everywhere it says God in this Bible, replace it with Elohim. The word Elohim does not mean God. It means powerful ones. The Anunnaki were known as the Elohim. The El Shaddai were the sons of the powerful ones. And in the scriptures, when Yahweh came to introduce himself to recruit Abraham, he told Abraham he was El Elyon, the destroyer. That's what those words mean. So if you don't know what they mean, go look that up and you'll see I'm not telling no joke. I recommend everybody go to Paul Wallace's channel as well as The Fifth Kind. Those are two channels that Paul Wallace does. Paul Wallace was an archdeacon in the Anglican Church for over 30 years until he just started looking closer at the translations and finding the truth. And guess what? He found exactly what I'm talking about right now and stopped promoting the lies. So all of y'all that get your panties in a knot because I'm telling the truth, El Shaddai is not the Most High unknown. El Elyon means the destroyer. I know what I'm talking about. You don't. Sorry. And if you got a problem with that, log off of here. Go look it up. Christianity can lie and tell you anything. But if you actually understood what the words mean in translation, I ain't talking about what the pastor told you they mean. I mean what they actually mean for people who actually spoke Hebrew. Yeah, you're right, Shelley. Elohim is plural for the powerful ones. In the plural, Eloha would be a singular powerful one. I'm trying to help you now, Kenny, if you'll listen. If you'll listen. Anyway, I don't have to be a pastor to teach truth. Fact of the matter, the likelihood of me disseminating truth is greatly higher because I'm not a pastor. And you know what's funny about that, Unknown? When I first started looking into these things, I had doubts too. Can I really say that? Is this really true? Do I really want to go there? And it just so happened, Holy Spirit sent me a beautiful gift by way of a brother that was currently in seminary to become a priest. And when I started telling him the things why I left away from religion and the things that I had come to know and understand, I was waiting he gonna come with that whole rebuke you and all that stuff that all that the Bible thumpers come with. He got real quiet and he said, You know, you didn't misunderstand or misinterpret anything. We're taught all of that in seminary, but we're also taught not to teach it to the people lest we confuse them, aka lest we teach them the truth and they understand they don't need to keep running to us and giving us their money, because that's going to affect our pockets. And eventually he wound up leaving seminary. He walked away from it too, but he had been steeped in it for years because he wanted so hard to believe. But anyway, let's get back to John, because this is the part that I really want people to see and understand. Again, you got to remember, Yeshua was called the Word and the Logos, and the Word is a communication. Where it says God, it just means Elohim and the powerful ones. And according to the ancient texts that are much older than the scriptures, the Elohim were the Anunnaki who came here and seeded the earth when their home planet was in trouble. And that let us make man in our image was them fashioning up. They hybridized a primate that they found here. They did not create that, but they played God in that they jumped started or skipped the line, if you will, of the evolutionary development according to them. And they recognized that the creator, they referred to the divine as the creator of all. And they said that they were worried kind of that they were kind of doing too much or going too far, in that the creator of all, was maybe displeased because they were literally coming in here and messing with the creator's stuff. But wasn't nobody there to stop them. Their home world was in trouble. They was worried that they was going to lose their home world. So, right, exactly. The lay people get so upset and defend this mess down to the socks because they think they got all the answers. They have no idea that the people that are teaching them are deliberately withholding information from them so they can continue to control the narrative and their minds and continue to get their money. Okay, again, I know for a fact the Father is the demiurge. Yeah, Yahweh is Yaldabaoth, the dragon, and in some, whatever they refer to him as, the demiurge. Absolutely, he is from the realm of Barbelo. When she started creating, Barbelo is an aeon. When she started creating, she stepped out from the Don't feel sorry for me, boo. I feel sorry for you. Trust me. Like I say, I have studied and studied. I done read more scripture than most people would ever conceive of. I was taught to read by the age of 3 from the Bible with a belt by some serious Bible thumpers. I've been reading this Bible for 54 years now. I know what I'm talking about. If you actually believe Yeshua, we're going to get into it right now, because he told you in the Gospel of John, he said, I'm not from here. And when he talked to the nation of Israel, the Israelites, in John, he said, you don't know my Father. You worship your father, the devil. He wasn't talking to the Sadducees. He wasn't talking to the Pharisees. He was talking directly to the nation of Israel who worship Yahweh. He said he told them that worshiping Yahweh, they were worshiping their father, the devil. I didn't make that up. I didn't imagine it. It's in print in this book, and we're going to get into it in just a few. I'm just taking John in order because there's some things I want to get to before we get that, because of the information that has come out to me. Yeah, that's the tetragrammaton, and that is the symbol, because Hebrew don't have no J. It didn't at that time. I don't know what they got now. Again, my background was as a Jehovah's Witness, so I know damn well what YHWH means, and I don't want no parts of Yahweh. You have no idea, sis, brother, whoever you are, you have been lied to. And I'm not saying that you aren't intelligent because I was lied to the same way. The only reason I'm willing to take the kind of heat that I put up with to come here and talk and teach is because I love Yeshua. And I understand that humanity has been lied to. And Yeshua said that he would not leave us as orphans, that he would come back, the Holy Spirit would come to be a director for us when we came and our eyes would be opened. Oh, no, okay. If you want, we're going to just go ahead on and lead that. Because there's also, I've seen a spiritual breakdown where YHWH will take you back to Isis is I am that I am, yeah, but it also take you back to is Isis. So depends on how you want to look at it. Again, that's a whole lot of pontificating and remixing and trying to make it fit an agenda that we just not even going to get there here, because the main thing we need to look at from the top side, I'm not caring what Yahweh's name is, because Yeshua said Yahweh was the devil. So I don't need to keep remixing and trying to figure out how to continue serving Yahweh. I'm worrying about what Yeshua said. Anyway, John 1:1 says, in the beginning was the Word. The Word is the communication, it's the mouthpiece. The Word was with God, or the Elohim, the powerful ones. And the Word was God, or a powerful one. Now, Christianity gonna try to tell you that that's Trinity based and all of that. If you actually look, go back and check out the Emerald Tablets in the Lost Book of Enki, and it'll help you understand. Very likely it wasn't. When I think we may have to go back to Matthew, maybe not. Yeah, not Matthew. Was it Luke? Yeah, to tell you the story about the immaculate, so-called immaculate conception. And truthfully, they describe what they did, or basically another version of what they did thousands and thousands of years before, when they first came here and did the whole Adam and Eve thing. Unknown, you're gonna have to get silenced. No, no. I did not say Yeshua is the devil. I said Yeshua said that Yahweh is the devil. I didn't stutter, and you did not misunderstand me. And now you're going to be silent so you can stop putting that spewing that mess into the channel. Ain't nobody said that. Antoine, what are you putting in there? A whole different language? You typing in another language, brother? Okay, in Greek. I can't read Greek, so yeah. But I appreciate you. Um, but yeah, it says that in the beginning, or says all things were made through him, and without him not anything made that was made. So it does indicate that the energy that is known as Yeshua has been around for a long time. This kind of goes further into, yeah, what we were talking about yesterday with the Anunnaki, and with Hermes Trismegistus being the thrice born. It is very possible that Yeshua was the second incarnation of Thoth. Some people think that he might have been the son of Thoth, but again, because it's saying here that he was the son of one of the powerful ones and he was here from the very beginning, it seems likely that he was an incarnation of Thoth. And it would make a whole lot of sense, because when he went through his spiritual ascension, and according to the Emerald Tablets, when Thoth went through his spiritual ascension, he went to the dweller, his father, Enki. In his spiritual capacity, he was known as the dweller. And he said, now that he has escaped death, he wanted, instead of roaming about the cosmos and those other lands, he did some of that as some astral travels and all that, but he wanted to come back and be a light unto the world. He wanted to teach humanity and help humanity open their consciousness so that they could escape from the darkness that had been put forth to them by some of those other folks that did not mean humanity well. Ishtar, basically, Inanna Ishtar kind of goes back to Isis. And again, I rock with that because she was the second geneticist on the Adamu project. When they came here, it was Enki, Nin Herzog, who later became Isis, who later became Ishtar, or based Inanna. There's some blurring in there, but yeah. But Enki was here as a geneticist, Ninma was here as a geneticist, and Ningish Zeta Thoth was here as a geneticist. Enlil, who is Enki's brother, came here. He didn't put a nickel in the quarter of our creation, settling the planet or nothing else. He sat back and chilled and waited for everything to get together. He was a military commander, Lord of the Command, Satan of Eden. Those were his two titles when he came here. He had the only thing that he did as far as creating humanity was to insist that we have our telomeres capped so that we wouldn't live but just so long, and insist that we have a worship gene put in us because he deliberately intended to tell us that they were gods. He said we were never to know that they were not gods. That's why they always came in the flame and the smoke and the fire and the burning bushes and stuff, because that we could not see their faces. I do believe, I believe in Yeshua HaMashiach. I don't believe in Jesus Christ because that's a binding spell. I know what you're talking about, Nate, or not, whoever you are. Yeah. So, anyway, when I started reading that about him coming, having been here from the very beginning and assisting with everything that they made, it let me know that helped me understand who Yahweh really was, because he did a lot of very specific things that let people, he was deliberately fulfilling what they called prophecy. Certain things that he did intentionally, but again, he went away for 18 years to prepare for that role. He knew what to do, and certain things that he did and said were to directly fulfill certain points of prophecy. Um, when we go back to the gospel according to Luke, it talks about Zechariah. It says, in the days of Herod, king of Judea, there was a priest named Zechariah of the division of Abijah. He had a wife from the daughters of Aaron, and her name was Elizabeth. And it says they were righteous before God, blah, 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 all of that. Now, it said he was, let me see, the part that when Gabriel came to him, hold on. There appeared to him an angel of the Lord standing on the right side of the altar of incense, and Zechariah was troubled when he saw him, and fear fell upon him. But the angel said to him, do not be afraid, Zechariah, for your prayer has been heard, and your wife Elizabeth will bear you a son, and you shall call his name John. And you will have joy and gladness, and many will rejoice at his birth, for he will be great before the Lord, and he must not drink wine or strong drink, and he will be filled with the Holy Spirit, even from his mother's womb, and he will turn many of the children of Israel to the Lord their God, and he will go before him in the spirit of and power of Elijah, to turn the hearts of the fathers to the children, and the disobedient to the wisdom of the just, to make ready for the Lord a people prepared. So John was here to pave the way for Yeshua. And I love the fact that he says he has the power of Elijah, because during Yeshua's transfiguration, they said Elijah and Moses showed up when his garments became blinding white. And again, the cloud came, and the fire, the voice came saying, this is my son, the beloved, whom I have approved. Listen to him. Anyway, Nate, you about to get up out of here too. You really are, because you're not helping. If you want to confuse people, go create you a channel and go have you a live stream and say whatever you want to say on it. The people that have come here asked me to have this discussion, and that's what I'm going to do. Now, Zechariah was talking to him, and he, like I said, the angel told him his name was Gabriel. And then Gabriel, after talking to Zechariah, went and talked to Elizabeth to let her know, you about to get pregnant. Don't get worried. This is God's baby. It's a little unusual, but this is something set aside for something special. And then it said 6 months after, or is in the 6th month of Elizabeth's pregnancy, Gabriel came to Mary and did the same thing. No, I'm not an astrologer, but Lord Enki was, and told her, "You're about to be pregnant. Don't get worried. This is God's baby. He's here for a special purpose. Got to do what we got to do." You know what I'm saying? Don't fret. This is going to happen. Now, that they were given the heads up that these were very special children, and Christianity want to give you that whole crazy immaculate conception story. Why is it that Christians will believe immaculate conception from Sky Daddy, but they will not believe in vitro fertilization from a master geneticist that made the whole race by hybridizing a primate? Because that's what they said they did. That's way more believable than the nonsense that they've tried to tell us about. And truthfully, they whitewashed the story so far down that they had to give us all that fantastical stuff so that they wouldn't actually tell us the truth. Yeshua was not white, but his race is completely irrelevant. Honestly, that further, but you know what? You make a good point, Richie Rich. Yeshua wasn't white. It wasn't possible for Yeshua to be white, but yet the whole world worships a white Jesus. Why? Because Christianity is fake. They made Jesus white when they knit him in the middle of that religion as a mascot. It's not possible for him to be white. He was born in Nazareth. What? No white people over there at that time. None. But people are so willing to believe the lie and so slow to accept the truth. And it really is kind of sad, for real. I never said that Jesus didn't exist. At the beginning, if you hadn't just come in here and gotten all excited, I said I do this because I love Yeshua HaMashiach. I have had clairaudient experiences with him. He guides me daily. Before I opened this lens to this camera, I sat down and prayed. I had a conversation with Yeshua. I asked for Archangel Michael to guide and preside over this, but I asked for Yeshua to actually guide my words and be able to teach what he wanted me to teach. And I closed that prayer in Yeshua's name, not Jesus Christ, in Yeshua's name. So be it. It doesn't matter the difference between the Catholic and the Orthodox because they're both Yahwist religions. They are a lie. They're teaching you to worship Yahweh, Yaldabaoth, the dragon. Let's get on there further. I got to get further down the road with John so you can see what I'm talking about. I keep saying it, but for some reason you don't seem to get it. Let's see here. Now, when Jesus, Yeshua, in the book is saying he's Jesus, but we're going to call it Yeshua. Wait a minute. Maybe if I clean my glasses, I could have see. How about that? Oh, that's so much better. Goodness. Oh, so now he said, John was paving the way. And it said that the word became flesh and dwelt among us. We've seen his glory. Glory is only of the Son from the Father, full of grace and truth. John bore witness about him and cried out, "This was he of whom I said, he who comes after me ranks before me because he was before me." And then, well, we ain't going to go through everything that John had to say because we really, really want to get into Yeshua stuff. So in the end of chapter 1 is kind of interesting because when Yeshua he's basically coming back into Jerusalem after that 18 years being gone. So now he's coming back at the age of 30 to start his ministry. And I think it was either in Matthew or Luke in the very first chapter, it talks about how when he came into Jerusalem, the first thing he did was looked up John, got baptized, the sky opened up, and Elohim, Enki, not Yahweh, Enki is the other, because I mean there was a whole bunch of Elohim, but the Bible basically is a story of this power play between the two brothers. So Enlil is in here a whole lot. But in that first part, when he first got baptized, the sky opened up and Enki says, "This is my son, the beloved, whom I'm approved." And the very next thing, according to the scriptures, that he does, goodbye, Church of Christ, Cog Deshaun, whatever, goodbye. The very next thing that he does is go into the wilderness, and that's where it says Satan went into the wilderness to tempt him, basically to mess with him. So the heavens wasn't opening up and Yahweh saying, "He's my son that I approved," and then Yahweh went right on out into the desert after him when he was on his initiation fast to tempt him and to talk mess to him. That would be some schizophrenic nonsense. What's your question? What is your question, Pierre? I stopped watching it because there's so many people that just coming. Yeah, he does have the devil does have a whole bunch of names, and one of them is Yahweh. And the crazy part is the scriptures say that. They tell you Satan of Eden was his first title when he got here, but in Revelation it tells you that the devil, whose name is Satan, but then Satan is Yahweh. Athena, wasn't Athena on one of Isis's names? Again, I don't follow the Greek and Roman pantheons very much. I was raised in Christianity, kind of afraid to look at any of that stuff. And when I did start looking at them, I was initially drawn to Thoth and the Egyptian parts of the Egyptian pantheon, but I never really got into the Neter and all of that pseudo Black Power stuff. They were a little too religious for me. Sophia is part of Gnostic teaching, but Sophia would be actually one of the aeons as well. Like I said, Barbelo, I think Sophia was, but again, when the unbegotten created the four aeons, and then the aeons began to create, Cain and Abel were not truly Elohim. They were Adam and Eve's children. But I mean, they were hybrids of the Elohim because all of us are. If you go again, when I started looking at this stuff and wanting to dissect it, because I had not gone down any other path of religiosity, I went as far back to the source of all of this stuff to try to unravel it. Yeshua took me all the way back to the beginning. I didn't need to wade through the Egyptian pantheon and the Greek pantheon and the Roman pantheon. I've done some, like looked at some documentaries and done some research to see who was who in some of them, but I don't really get like fine-tuned nitpicked in those because he took me all the way back to the earliest of it, which was the Anunnaki pantheon, if you will. What happened when they first got here? They were the ones that started the story, so I didn't need to get tripped up in what happened when they stopped calling themselves Ninmah and Ninhursag and decided to call themselves Isis and something else. I just stuck with who they were when they first got off the spaceship because my mind was open enough to be okay. You know what? I'm gonna hide you, Church of God, Deshaun. Hmm. So anyway, basically, when Yeshua started his ministry, he was going about and people started kind of following him. They was already looking at him sideways. Now, remind you, he's already gotten baptized. And the first thing he did to kick off before he even started his ministry, was to go into the wilderness on this 40-day fast. Satan tempted him and all the rest. Highly disrespectful. This man is good. Fasting for 40 days ain't gonna be easy under any circumstances. But he went off by himself, and Satan was out there. Oh, you think you God? Tell the stones to become bread. Oh, throw yourself off the cliff. You could get some money. They done said, the prophecy said that angels won't let you, your foot or hair on your head, or won't let your toe, whatever, won't let you stumble. Why don't you do that? Why don't you do this? Just messing with him. but he made it through his fast, came out of the wilderness, and his ministry began. Yeah, and truthfully, yeah, that's why I say I don't know enough about. I don't follow any of the particulars because for me, the worship gene was so ensconced with the whole cultism thing with Jehovah's Witnesses that once I turned it off, I turned it all the way off. I didn't need to go find another pantheon and another avenue of religiosity. I'm interested in knowing, but like I said, I got my hands full with the Anunnaki and they exploits because them cats, all I mean, they're all Anunnaki. Like I said, the Greeks, the Romans, the Egyptians, the even in the Vedic tradition, they have different names as they continue to move throughout the world and the ages continue to progress. But these beings lived for so long that they're all the same people. They just renamed them as time continued to march forward. When they left out of Egypt, they started out in Africa or that whole area. The Eden was in Iraq, and the Apsu was over basically in the other part of Africa, but that whole part of that continent is where they landed and where they started mining the gold. And they had Ur and Schumer and Eridu. They started making those cities and all of that around there. But after time, when a couple of resets had happened, the flood and the Anunnaki wars and the evil wind with the nuclear fallout and all the rest of that, when they start moving and settling other places around the world, people over time started calling them different things, but they were still all the same people. You say you got a bad feeling, Richie? Let me see. You said you thought it was just Seth was their first child. No, honestly, Adam and Eve wasn't even the first examples. They were just the first breedable pair. And the reason we got that story about the rib cage and the dust of the earth and the blue and all of that stuff that we come up with was because Thoth had to insert Enlil's or Enki, excuse me, no, Thoth figured out how to make Adam and Eve fertile. He took DNA from Enki and inserted it in Adam's side, and took DNA from Ninmah and inserted it in Eve's side, and bolstered up their gene profile enough to where they became fertile. All of the Anunnaki aren't bad though. You saying you have a bad feeling about the Anunnaki. Like I said, if you actually read the stuff, again, I read through the entire Lost Book of Enki and we discussed it on the channel. I have that playlist on my channel if you want to go and look at it. Um and I mentioned the other day Lioness of Gaia. Lilith, I'm not sure about truthfully because I haven't tracked down enough of the information to understand whether or not, again, I was sent to the Anunnaki in the Babylonian texts. There was nothing in there about Lilith. So I don't know if that's something that got fused into the stories later or not. I'm not saying she didn't exist. I'm just saying from what I've read so far, there was zero mention of Lilith. Because trust me, when I was reading these things, as they started mentioning, when I'm reading the Anunnaki story and it's mentioning some folks that showed up in the Bible story, I was like, oh, okay, cool. And then, I remember that name over there from other story over here. And I was starting to see how these things link together, but I never heard anything about Lilith. Excuse me for a moment, y'all. I don't want to cough loud, but I've got to cough. Excuse me. Um, so my jury is still open on Lilith. I mean, hey, the story had to come from somewhere, so she may have been an actual person, but truthfully, at the end of the day, the significance of it is doesn't figure as much as we like to. We bought into Lilith's story being so significant because of the Adam and Eve story as it plays out into Christianity. But truthfully, at the end of the day, Adam and Eve were not where humanity's real growth came from. They were the first breedable pair, but Adapa and Titi were the first civilized humans according to the older text. Enki noticed that after some time, the human genome, Adam and Eve's bloodline, had begun to devolve, and it had to be shored up by infusing more Anunnaki blood into it. Now, he didn't take them back in the laboratory for that. He just engaged some of his rather lusty predilections. He was not a faithful man. He had Damkina, and she was here on earth with him. His wife came here. She bore Eve. But he also made babies with Dawn and Dusk. They had Adapa and Titi were the children of women that he mated with, but they did shore up the bloodline to stabilize the human genome again, because Adam and Eve's line was devolving. Yeah, now honestly, I don't. Again, what she represents, there is great hate for Lilith, and I've never thought that that was correct. Just like there's a lot of disdain for Eve, and I never thought that was correct. That's a lot of masculine blame shifting as they sought to remove the notion of a divine feminine from religion. They noticed they put all the blame on Eve. What was her real sin? Receiving the truth and turning off her worship gene, according to the Anunnaki. Enlil insisted that we have, no, baby, fallen angels are basically other Anunnaki beings. They call them the fallen angels because they didn't fall from heaven. They came from Mars and mutinied. That in the Anunnaki text, it talks about the fact that after Enki had several human hybrids, and his uncles and brothers and all that kind of knew about it. They didn't brag about it openly, but like when the flood happened and it came out later that he had to admit that Ziazudra was his son and all of that, and Anu was like, boy, you've been out there sowing your oats, right? So they understood that he was mating amongst the humans, even though he wasn't necessarily supposed to. I have no idea what you're talking about, but I got a feeling you getting ready to get up out of here if you come with some foolishness. Um, but after that, when Marduk decided to marry Sarpanet, she was also human. And at the wedding feast after Marduk married Sarpanet, according to the story, 200 of the Watchers, who were Anunnaki workers that were here to mine the gold before the humans were made to help out with the mining of the gold. They literally had a crew of 200 to 300 Anunnaki people that had come from Nibiru to mine this gold before humans was ever thought about being made. Once humans were made and they figured out how to mine the gold faster, they created a way station on Mars, and most of the Watchers were sent to Mars. They literally had a spaceport here on Earth. They would shuttle the refined gold to Mars, and then they would load up the ship and fly it back to Nibiru for that project that they were doing. When they found out that Marduk had married Sarpanet, they got mad. They like, we've been sitting on this damn planet for how long? We ain't got no women. We can't get no nookie. We are sick and tired of this. If Marduk can go and get a woman, then by God, we can too. And they literally crashed the wedding and went and picked human mates for themselves. That's what the story of the fallen angels is all about, sweetie. But they weren't truly angels. The word angel simply means messengers. That's the spin that we were put on it in the Christian story, that they're these beautiful, huge, angelic things, and the eye and the wheel and all that. And I'm not saying there aren't some beings that are like that, because if you remember, Anunnakis are hybrids. It's not from any one place. There are very likely some divine messengers or some non-corporeal beings that if they actually showed us their native form from their home planet, they probably look exactly like what they described in Ezekiel. Yeah. Oh, yeah. The monatomic gold, and they actually fed off of some of that. I use gold now, but they said it was a mixture of, I think, gold and silver and was it lotus? I can't remember. I read something about that before, but yeah, I definitely look, and especially if you understand that you may have more of yeah, they did it. They did it too. And that was one of the reasons why they had to put the angels with the flaming sword up in the Garden of the Eden to keep Adam and Eve out, because the trees that they were there, it wasn't there was anything physically wrong with any of those fruits. That's the lie Christianity tells you. But they actually had some trees and fruits and things there from their home world that actually were for their healing and would extend their lives. And because Adam and Eve were direct hybrids, had they eaten from those trees and stuff, they would have extended their lives too. And Enlil was so furious that they no longer wanted to worship. They had learned the truth because Enki done let the cat out the bag. He kicked them out of the garden and put armed guards up to make sure that they could not get back in to eat of that fruit. Exactly, Antoine. Yeah. For those who don't know, this brother know what he's talking about. So if he's mentioning something in the comments, you really might want to pay attention to what Antoine is saying here, because that's one of the reasons why it was felt so urgent to me. A shar is 3,600 of our Earth years. The flood was caused by them rolling up on us when the something with their planet, their orbit is elliptical, and ever so often, not every single time they pass us, but there are certain times in the rotation or the orbit of their planet that they come close enough to us in our orbit that it destabilizes our magnetic poles. It do whatever, and it caused the flood. The flood was not caused by Yahweh. They knew it was coming, and they could have prepared humans better for it, but Yahweh insisted that we were not told about it because he wanted us to be exterminated. And Enki bucked the jack and told uh, Ziazudra, Noah, how to save himself and the people and the animal. They took samples. They didn't put all of the actual animals and all that. They had some animals on the boat, but they took a lot of genetic samples to encase and encase them in to go on the boat with them too, so that they, if all the vegetation and stuff was destroyed during that cataclysm, that they would be able to reseed the planet, seed again after that came. He said, oh yeah. And honestly, Nibiru can't be that far away, because truthfully, when when you read the Anunnaki text in the Lost Book, when they started describing leaving Nibiru and heading towards Ea Earth, the first planet that they when they got out of Nibiru's orbit and atmosphere, the first planet that they described passing on their way to Earth is Pluto. So they're literally just on the other side of Pluto. And ever so often, their orbit comes close enough to Earth that it still messes with our orbit. And they knew that when the flood happened, they said that within two shars' time, another cataclysm would come befall Earth. We don't know exactly when it's going to happen, but we are in the second shar now. From Bible time, from the flood time up till now, we are at least in this, like I said, at least at the beginning of the second shar, maybe longer than that, because we don't know exactly when. We know the timelines are kind of skewed in the scriptures, but that was one of the reasons why I felt such a sense of urgency. Yeah, probably because of my religious background too. But again, like I said, I've also been that bookworm, that nerd. There's always been a back of the book, last page of the book kind of girl. Absolutely, Shelley. And that's why I have a sense of urgency. All of the prophecies and the scriptures and the this and the that they pointed to talk about the second coming. The Millerites said that 1844 it was going to happen, and they didn't physically see him. The Mormons said that he was coming. The Millerites said it. The latter, which the Millerites became the Seventh Day Adventists. The Jehovah's Witnesses were looking for it, but we're seeing all of the stuff that was described in Revelation. Even though they may not have a complete bead on the truth, I was looking at what's happening on the planet next to what's happening in Revelation, and it looks like they're coming up on the end of the book. Not the way religion says, but if that cataclysm is coming, and the end of the book says that there's going to be a massive destruction and whatever, the showdown, that like I said, that we don't know exactly when Yahweh had been bound, but it said that he would be released for a time and then he would be completely destroyed. Now, with all of the hell and confusion we've been going through for the last 1,000 years, doesn't it kind of sort of look like maybe the time that Yahweh was released, we might be living in that right now? And after that, after he's done his thing and they sick and tired of him, they said that they were going to shut it down. Yeah. Well, like I say, Lioness of Gaia, it's in one sense, if you don't really want to buy all the way into religion, you could throw the baby out with the bathwater, if you say. But I also have enough respect for religion to understand that even though they worship Yahweh as the dragon under Luciferian law, they still kind of sort of have to tell you the truth, even if they dress it up in the middle of a lie. And if you have enough discernment, you can pull the truth out of from the midst of the lie. So everything they said wasn't a lie. I just don't have to buy into it on the level that they want to. Oh, heck yeah. Absolutely, Yahweh is a moral monster. When I was reading some of this stuff, and we're gonna get into it later. I think I was in it might have been Micah or Habakkuk, one of them two, but it's like literally in the first part of the verses is everything is uh vengeful, gonna do this, I'm gonna destroy, gonna da, 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 da. And then you get down in the middle of the thing, and now they talk about the Lord or the Lord God again, and it's love and kindness and peace and retribution. And I'm like, look, people need to understand, either they're talking about more than one Elohim in this book, or this God is absolutely freaking nuts. It wasn't even from one chapter to the other chapter. It was on the same page that I was looking at it. The first 4 or 5 verses, he was so sweet and light and kind and all. I mean, not he was vengeful. He was calling for their destruction, and he got da 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 da. And then you get down to the last part of the next chapter, and it's but all they're not calling any of these gods by name. They have put that blanket term God Elohim on it. So we don't understand, because Yahweh said he the only one, and Christianity want to go with that lie. We don't know how to read and understand the Bible, because we try to make it be about one Elohim, and it is not. Elohim don't mean one, it means several of them. You said if you become Buddha, your stupa shall appear here, appear there, yeah. And here's the thing, even in the Hindu, they talk about the Vimana and all of that. They understood that there was beings from other planets in the Hindu tradition, in the Buddhist tradition. Oh, look, every tradition on this planet except Christianity in Judaism, even though it's the accounts are written in their books. Because even as a child, when I was looking at that stuff in Isaiah and Ezekiel and all that, I was like, why do God need a car? That don't sound like no angels. Them sound like vehicles. That sound like a spaceship. When he's appearing in the flame and they going over here and they taking them up in the cloud and in the cloud and in the cloud. Everybody appearing in the damn cloud. Why do they have to do all of that? If a child can figure that out, but Christians can't. But every sacred tradition around this planet, other than the big three, have stories of sky people, those who to earth from heaven came. And we got them stories of all the angels and stuff. Come on now. Yeah. Now let me keep on here because I want to get to this. I wanted to get to where he was talking about because they still y'all don't. I gotta find the exact verse where he was talking about them worshiping the devil. Nobody seems to remember that part or want to believe it. Um, Before we do that, though, we got to go to 316 because, like I said, all of us Sunday school escapees or graduates know this verse because it probably had it wrapped into our knuckles, right? For God so loved, or the powerful one, so loved the world that he gave his only son, that whoever believed like him, or it says in him, but it should be like him in the translation, should not perish but have eternal life. For God did not send his son into the world to condemn the world, but in order that the world might be saved through him. And ain't that what Thoth asked his daddy to do? That's why I said I honestly believe that Yeshua was a consciousness transfer, a deliberate artificial insemination of Thoth's consciousness into another being to come onto this planet to go teach the Jews to try to peel them back from that Yahweh worship. Oh yeah, Leonardo. A lot of the artwork through the Renaissance period and all of that too. They got flying saucers and spaceships and different looking angels and all kind of stuff. Yeah, and honestly, Lioness Sagaya, it again, if you look in, I think it's the second of the Emerald Tablets. He when he starts talking about going into um, the halls of Amenti and meeting up with the dweller and the dweller was in his Aguanti, and he's describing the 30 and 2 of the beings that were there. And truthfully, of the original Anunnaki who came to Earth, they had been here for so long. Some of them left and came back. They were shuttling back and forth. Some of the Watchers were going back and forth, some of the other beings. But Enki and Isis and Thoth and all of them, they stayed on Earth for so long till eventually Anu and all of them, they had to actually talk to like the scientists and stuff back on Nibiru, and it was determined it probably would not be safe for them to come back to Nibiru because they had stayed off of Nibiru for so long. They were beginning to age badly. And that's one of the reasons they kind of sort of went into that stasis period. The Aguanti Thoth talks about making the halls of Amenti and all of that. But there was a fourth zone that they described. They had a lot of places that they set up and made for humanity, but there was a fourth zone on Earth that was just for the Anunnaki. Humans could not go there at all. And they had rest chambers, rejuvenation areas, and all of that was for them. Once they stopped dealing directly with humans, it is very likely that they retired to their Aguanti, if you will, and are still here on this earth because like I said, they lived hundreds of thousands of years, and the flood just happened 4 5 thousand years ago, so they ain't went nowhere. We read this stuff like it's ancient history. It just happened 2 years ago to them, 2 of their years. It's only ancient history to us because we only live 100 years of pop. Enoch is wild. The book of Enoch, he tells people about how he got taken up and this and that. He was shown all of those secrets. Humans don't know about him coming back because if he was in Nibiru and touring the planets and all that other stuff, by the time he came back, everybody that had known him as Enoch on the planet would have died already. Time was different. He was still alive because he was there. He was gone a shard or two. But think about it. If he cruised around Nibiru and whatever teaching and all, because he was made a scribe of the Elohim, Enki, obviously not a scribe of Enlil. Enlil hates humans. He would never have selected a human to be his scribe, much less one of Enki's blow-bys, basically. Because Enoch was a hybrid too. He was one of Enki's sons by, I don't even know who by, but yeah. Probably either beyond the ice wall or, like I said, in the halls of Amenti, the gateway to Amenti is described as being underneath one of the pyramids. And truthfully, they're at a point they can be in a non-corporeal state as well, but they do it, they, according to Thoth, they actually had to preserve their physical bodies. They have to spend at least 100 out of every 1,000 years in a stasis state. But even when they do that, though, when their bodies are sleeping and being rejuvenated, they can still incarnate because they can telepathically link with people and basically use somebody's body like an avatar. I believe the Earth is round. I don't buy into flat Earth theory because that doesn't make any sense. All the other planets out there are round. Why in the world would Earth be flat? Yeah. So now let's continue on here. Let me see. Let me see. Let me see. In John, when he was saying, oh, he said, "This is the judgment. The light has come into the world, and people love the darkness rather than the light because their works were evil." And ain't that the truth? Yeshua is telling them something, tried to make it easy for them. They could not and would not hear him, and they literally unalived him. And even now, when I come up and say things, or other people are saying the same things, because the things that I'm saying, it ain't like I'm the only person that's saying them. Billy Carson is saying it. Paul Wallace is saying it. Myth Vision is saying it. Morgan Official is saying it. It's a whole big, and those create. I've got 600 or 700 people on my channel due to recent activity. I'm talking about content creators that's got over 1 million subscribers, and they've been saying it based on years of research. And people still get in here and want to yap and argue against it because they would rather believe the dragon's lie than to believe Yeshua's truth. Right, but here's the thing. They use that scripture to try to make Christianity fit, but it still don't. It really don't. Well, again, you have to understand what sound doctrine is. People want to claim that Christianity is sound doctrine. First of all, when it's truth, it don't need to be doctrine. Doctrine means it's a lie that they done wrote into law. It doesn't mean that it's actual truth. It means what some people decided and wrote into law. And a lot of these scriptures have been seriously manipulated. 90% of the what we call the New Testament was written over 100 years after Yeshua walked the earth by somebody who never met Yeshua, who everything they say flies directly in the face of what Yeshua had to say. So again, exactly. But Paul appointed himself as an apostle. Yeshua didn't appoint him as no apostle because Yeshua never met him. And exactly, the truth was too easy. So they convoluted the lie to make it fit an agenda. You see, exactly. Thoth is said to have built or accessed the halls to preserve the wisdom of Atlantis and guide humanity's evolution. And that's what he says right there in it. And we're going through the Emerald Tablets as we speak on like I said, not in the lives, but I do have, and I'm keeping those on a playlist as well. But he literally asked, no, honey, that's again, where does it say that in Acts, a book that was written by Paul? But look at the year that it was written. That's a lie. Paul sat right there and lied because truthfully, when I was, that somebody had pointed to Titus, and I think they were looking at Titus 2:13 or something, but I had to look at this greeting. This is a letter. And if you notice, the books that Paul wrote are all letters either to congregations of believers that had been believers in Yeshua, supposed to be, or to individual people. And he says here, Paul, a servant of God and an apostle of Jesus Christ, lie right there. He never met the man. He said he did for the sake of the faith of God's elect and their knowledge of the truth, which accords with godliness and hope of eternal life, which God, who never lies, and again, Yahweh ain't did nothing but lie through this whole book, promising people stuff that he never delivered. But he, according to Paul, he never lies. He promised before the ages began and at the proper time manifested in his word through the preaching with which I have entrusted by the command of God our Savior. Even though Yeshua told people, do not worship me as God, over and over. But Paul, to fit that whole Father, Son, Trinity thing that they was putting out, decided they start laying down the things that were seeding in their false teaching, the deception, like Yeshua said after they unalived him, that there will be one coming who would put forth a great deception that would mislead mankind for thousands of years. And that's exactly what happened. Yeah. And but what really gets me with this letter in Paul, what really struck out to me, this is an age we don't have no FaceTime, we don't have no email, none of the rest of that. These are letters that are going out to talk to these people. And Paul was talking cash money about people in here. They're being very, very snobbish as to what they determined that a righteous person would be and not be, and all the rest of that. He said, this is why I left you in Crete, that you might put what remained into order and appoint elders in every town as I directed you. If anyone is above reproach, the husband of one wife, and his children are believers, and not open to the charge of debauchery or insubordination, for an overseer as God's steward must be above reproach. He must not be arrogant or quick-tempered or a drunkard or a violent or greedy gain, but hospitable, a lover of good, self-control, upright, holy, and disciplined. He must hold firm to the trustworthy word as taught, not the trustworthy word as written, the trustworthy word as taught, so that he may be able to give instruction in sound doctrine and also to rebuke those who contradict it. So they weren't interested in truth. They were interested in establishing their doctrine, and they had to get the just right, ever so high and mighty people that were completely above reproach and all the rest of that. Jesus never told nobody to have that level of spiritual snobbery. Jesus blessed the harlot. Jesus healed the leper. Jesus never judged nobody. And he went on and on this whole laundry list of stuff that you got to do to be in his good graces just to teach they mess. That's not of God. For there are many of those who are insubordinate, empty talkers, and deceivers, especially those of the circumcision party. What? Yahweh told them they got to get circumcised. Now Paul is over here going in on the ones that get circumcised. They must be silenced, since they are upsetting whole families by teaching for shameful gain what they ought not to teach. One of the Cretans, a prophet of their own, said, Cretans are always liars, evil beasts, lazy gluttons. This testimony is true. Therefore, rebuke them sharply, that they may be sound in faith, not devoting themselves to Jewish myths and the commands of people who turn away from the truth. To the pure, all things are pure, but to the defiled and unbelieving, nothing is pure, but both their minds and their consciences are defiled. They profess to know God, but they deny him by their works. They are detestable, disobedient, unfit for any good work. Talking cash money. Why would you send a letter like that to people that's supposed to be trying to help people learn and grow? Again, how he gonna write to Christians on behalf of Jesus? But again, like you said, Jesus was killed, and what everything Paul's saying is flying directly in the face, the tone, the temperature, and everything else of anything Yeshua ever said. Because Paul was working along with the Catholic Church to establish this religion. No, my reading ain't out of context. I'm reading from the book. How is it out of context when I'm reading the entire book? Yeah, Jesus was already gone. Even if he didn't die, so-called die at the crucifixion, 100 years later, he was already gone. The longest anybody has ever claimed that he might have lived was to be about 83, 84 years old. So by the time Paul came on the scene writing all of this stuff, Yeshua been gone. Okay, says you, honey, but guess what? I'm not interpreting anything. I'm just reading it. That's your problem. Everybody keep talking about your interpretation. They've gotten so used to buying the BS interpretation of the priests and the pastors and the preachers that they can't read for themselves and use common sense. They don't want to do no Okay. Bye, Kristen, whoever you are. Goodbye. You're not being helpful. And oh no, you can go too, because ain't nobody talking about no Cleo. Stop that. Most of the writings were in about the 100 to 110 year range after Yeshua, but Christianity itself was established 295 years after Yeshua was supposed to be executed. Yeah. And that's the part that they don't understand. The person that called the religion Christianity didn't even believe in Yeshua. He was a sun worshiper. He just wanted to unify, he wanted to create a unified religion because there was a lot of different little factions around. Constantine didn't give a flip about Yeshua. He wanted to unify create a unified religion under his regime for his own convenience, so he could create a more uniform taxation situation, religion, all of that. Okay. Anyway, what did oh yeah, hey goddess, the unique, how you doing, maybe? Good to see you. I don't even know how I missed that, but yeah. But anywho, we're going back to John because let's see. He said, "He who comes from above is above all. He who is of the earth belongs to the earth and speaks in an earthly way. He who comes from the heaven is above all. He bears witness to what he has seen and heard, yet no one receives his testimony. Whoever receives his testimony sets his seal to this, that God is true. For whom God is sent utters the words of God, for he gives the Spirit without measure." But again, remember Elohim and more than one of them. Everywhere you see God, you got to understand that there are more than one Elohim being spoken about. Now, let's get on to actual some of Jesus stuff. When and by the time we get over to chapter 4, around verse 23, he said, "The hour is coming and now is here when the true worshipers will worship the Father in spirit and truth, for the Father is seeking such people to worship him." And then the he was talking to, let me see. He said, well, okay, when Jesus was talking to the woman, he said, "Woman, believe me, the hour is coming when neither on this mountain nor in Jerusalem will you worship the Father. You worship what you do not know. We worship what we know, for salvation is from the Jews. But the hour is coming and is now when true worshipers will worship the Father in spirit and truth, for the Father is seeking such people to worship him. God is truth, and those who worship him must worship in spirit and truth." And then the woman said, I know that the Messiah is coming. He is called Christ. When he comes, he will tell us all things. Jesus said to her, I who speak to you am he. And then, let me see here. I highlighted way too much stuff in here. Okay. Let's get to the authority of Jesus in chapter 5, verse 19. So Jesus said to them, truly, I say to you, the Son can do nothing of his own accord, but only what he sees the Father doing. For whatever the Father does, that the Son does likewise. For the Father loves the Son and shows him all that he himself is doing, and greater works than these will he show him, so that you may marvel. And then 22, for the Father judges no one, but has given all judgment to the Son, that all may honor the Son just as they honor the Father. Whoever does not honor the Son does not honor the Father who sent him. The Holy Trinity is not actually there's nothing in the Bible to actually establish the Trinity type of thinking. When they got rid of the Divine Mother, if they were going to teach a Trinity, the Father, the Mother, and the Son would have been more accurate. But that was something that was designed to take the idea of the Divine Mother out to masculinize the religion. Right? But he can get up out of here for real, because no. But anyway, let me see. It's so funny because he said, do not think that I will accuse you to the Father. There is one who accuses you, Moses, on whom you set your hope. For if you believe Moses, you will believe me, for he wrote of me. But if you did not believe his writings, how will you believe my words? So Jesus already knew, like I said, they wasn't really listening to him. So, and again, every year they celebrate that blood ritual for having unalived him. So we know they didn't listen to him. So I can't even get upset that they don't listen to me either. But oh well, those of us who want to know will continue to study this and figure it out, not from the way that the church told us to figure it out and see it, but from the way. What is with all of these crazy people from wherever they keep talking about the Michael Jackson thing? I don't look nothing like Michael Jackson. I'm not saying nothing about Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson been dead for how long? And they so caught up on a man that they still come and people. They ain't got nothing. That's really some ignorant crap right there. You ain't got nothing better to say or do. So yeah, bye. Did I get the wrong one? Uh-oh. Wait a minute. Oh no, that was Arda Ezra. I meant to. Yeah, that's true. Okay. I'm trying to find this scripture because I know it's in here in several places. I got to get a larger print Bible because Lord have mercy. In John 7:28, he says, so Jesus proclaimed as he taught in the temple, you know me and you know where I come from, but I have not come of my own accord. He who sent me is true, and him you do not know. I know him, for I come from him, and he sent me. And then in chapter 7, verse 32, he said, or 33, he says, Jesus then said, I will be with you a little while longer, and then I'm going to him who sent me. I was trying to see. Over and over again, he keeps telling them no. Even if he said, okay, I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me will not walk in darkness, but will have the light of life. And so then later on, he said, even if I do bear witness about myself, my testimony is true, for I know where I come from and I know where I'm going. But you do not know where I come from or where I'm going. You judge according to the flesh. I judge no one. But yet, even if I do judge, my judgment is true, for it is not I alone who judge, but I and the Father who sent me. You know neither me nor my Father. If you knew me, you would know my Father also. I am you are from below, I am from above. You are of this world, I am not of this world. Oh, here we go. Okay. I knew it was in here. I kept trying to see where it is. I'm down to John 8, and I guess we'll start at 39 because he's talking about being with Abraham. Brandon, goodbye. Good Lord. Abraham said, okay, it says, they answered him, Abraham is our father. Jesus said to him, if you were Abraham's children, you would be doing the works Abraham did. But now you seek to kill me, a man who has told you the truth that I heard from God. This is not what Abraham did. You are doing the works of your father did. They said to him, we were not born of sexual immorality. We have one father, even God. Jesus said to them, if God were your father, or Elohim were your father, you would love me, for I come from Elohim. I am here. I came not of my own accord, but he sent me. Why do you not understand what I say? Is it because you cannot bear to hear my word? You are of your father, the devil, and your will is to do your father's desires. He was a murderer from the beginning and does not stand in the truth because there is no truth in him. When he lies, he speaks out of his own character, for he is a liar and the father of lies. But because I tell the truth, you do not believe me. Which one of you convicts me of sin? I tell you the truth. Why do you not believe me? For whoever is of God hears the words of God. The reason why you do not hear them is that you are not of God. That is not interpretation. That is not supposition. I just literally read it up out of the book. Right? They really don't. Yeah. First thing he did, he tried to turn around and get Abraham to unalive his son. He threatened to unalive the entire nation of Israel. He lied to him and promised to give him the land of Canaan. He gave the land of Canaan to Abraham, but Abraham never got it. He gave the land of Canaan to the nation of Israel under Moses, and they never got it. They still fighting over it to this day. And Hebrews names about 30 or 40 people throughout the scriptures that were faithful to Yahweh. And at the end of that, in fact of the matter, I've been misquoting the scripture. Let me get over here because I did want to look at that. Yeah, he said, all of these, though commended through their faith, did not receive what was promised, since God had promised something better for us, that apart from us, they should not be made perfect. So he just left them hanging because because how you gonna say, like I said, by the time you get down to Hebrews, thousands of years have passed. So you're gonna say if everybody can't get it, can't nobody get it? But yet, whoa, let me go back. Okay. What in the world? Oh, I guess the video, whatever what the little background music I had, it's like the video kind of disappeared on me. Let me see here. Yeah, that'll work. Okay. Well, your God can be a holy God if you want to. And if you are a pastor from Horse Cave, Kentucky, and you choose to be a pastor, Robert, that's fine. But one of these days your eyes may come open. And if it do, fine. If it don't, fine. But you're not gonna come up in here proselytizing. Boo. You can get silence too. I appreciate you coming back. I recognize you from last night. We're here to learn, but we are not here to continue because, again, I have studied the scriptures and I know good and full well Yahweh is a dragon. He is not what Christianity has taught him to be. And Yeshua don't have nothing to do with Christianity. They just knit him as a mascot in the middle of a Yahweh's lie. That part. Like I said, I'm reading here in John chapter 8. This is an interpretation. This is not me putting a spin on it. All I had to do was read it where he told them that they're worshiping the devil. And he was not talking to the Pharisees. He was not talking to the Sadducees. He was talking to the Jews who he knew good and full well worshiped Yahweh because he was a born Jew who had been taught. Like I say, he was not a practicing Jew by faith. He was an Essene or possibly an Edomite. But the Jews were worshiping Yahweh, and he knew it. He was all up in that neighborhood, born into it, and told them straight up, you are worshiping the devil. He's the liar and the father of a lie. Thank you. Let me see. Did I make you a lioness? Did I make you a moderator? Let me see. Let me do that. Lioness or Gaia, you're a moderator as well. If you like, like I said, if they come with the nonsense, you can just block them. We ain't got time for that. Jewish, Gentile, and this is the point. The reason I'm speaking, hi Colton, the reason I'm speaking the way I am and putting up with all of the foolishness and all of that is because whether a person is Jewish or Christian or Muslim or agnostic or atheist or any of those things, this information is relevant to us. If we are getting close to the end of the book and looking around at this dumpster fire we living in and the Walking Dead that's running amongst us, it looks like we're getting kind of close to the end of the book. There's coming a time, according to the end of Revelation, that the peaceful Elohim, the one that's trying to help us, is going to come back. And the ones that will be considered to be able to be saved, taken up in the space camp, or whatever in the base camp, allowed to work with Elohim, Enki, whatever the case may be, in order to be in that number, we can't be following the lie. We cannot be aligned with Yahweh. Yahweh is going to be deposed. That tells us that Yeshua just said it, that he's a liar and the father of a lie. The scriptures and the Anunnaki text tell us that Yahweh was the Satan of the Eden. Then when we get to Revelation, it tells us that Satan is going to be destroyed. Now we can keep hanging to that, again, blur our eyes if we want to and want to argue against that, but it's all in there in the book. But humanity has been bamboozled into believing that good is bad and bad is good. They literally, he's the great deceiver. They tell us that over and over and over, and yet people still don't get it. And I was so frustrated, like, how did people not get it? But like I said, Yeshua was the perfect teacher, and he was down there. No, again, that's the second, third, fourth, whatever time it keeps telling me, you keep talking about I should have read the Quran. Why would I read the Quran? Why? If Muhammad, peace be upon him, he meant well. Oh, you said I okay. So I like I said, I just basically blocked their comments. I don't know if they could still watch or not. But yeah, for anybody else that's wondering about that, Muhammad said that Yahweh came to him and gave him this message that he supposedly dictated to become the Quran. But Muhammad don't even know if they wrote down what he said because Muhammad was illiterate. So that was a prime opportunity for the political Yahwists of the time to insert whatever they wanted to put in there to create a narrative. Slavery is evil, period. It ain't even, initially, slavery had nothing to do with race, it was about political factions and who conquered lands. But even at that, according to the Anunnaki text, they had abolished slavery on their home world hundreds of thousands of years ago. That's the reason they bucked so hard about us, about them making us. They made us out of desperation, but they didn't they knew that slavery was wrong. And that's one of the reasons Enki had such a hard time with enforcing the stuff that Yahweh wanted to put into force. Yahweh wanted a worship gene. Yahweh wanted to keep our lifespan short to make sure we did. Because think about it, when you get older, you get some more sense. So he wanted our lifespan short so we couldn't even live long enough to figure out the truth, to keep us blind and hobbled in ignorance, basically living just long enough to be useful workers, and then we die. Yeshua came not just to free slaves, he came to free everyone by liberating the mind. That's what he was here to do. That's what he asked his father to do. Like you say, he was sent here on a mission. The way was paved for him by a special Immaculate Conception birth of John, who was sent to literally teach and pave the way for Yeshua to come. And then Yeshua came right behind him to liberate the minds. He was plunked down into a Jewish society that was steeped in Yahwist thinking and worship with his beautiful Buddhist type thinking, his Buddhic Enkiite thinking. He was plunked down in the midst of Enlilite religion to teach Enkiite philosophy. Yep, my people perish for a lack of knowledge. Yahweh means Yahweh. Mean his way, because he already said it was his way or no way. And that's the problem. People don't, and he, all of the bragging and where was you when I did this and where was you when I did that and can you bind Leviathan and all of those things that he came up with to basically brag on himself, but he ain't helping nobody. Hey Sage, how are you? It's good to see you here. But yeah, that the main thing that I really wanted to get out of John was that, and again, we ain't got to go through the whole book to see how many times he said it, because in chapter 8 we saw it very clearly laid out. I've been repeating it and repeating it and repeating it, and people thought that I just made that up, and I definitely wanted to find it and go over it and read that so that people could really understand. Yeshua actually said that if again, well, if he, their book, their own playbook, they gave him credit for saying it, that Yeshua, that the Jews were worshiping the devil. Balkanik, yeah. Again, and like you said, what is a prophet? Nobody really wants to hear a prophet when they speak. That's one of the reasons I don't get no more upset. And I'm not saying I'm a prophet. And well, honestly, I'm not even going to say that because I'm not saying anything that Yeshua didn't say. The only thing different that I'm saying is when I started connecting the dots, because at the time when I started reading the Emerald Tablets and I started reading the Lost Book of Enki, and I'm like, wait a minute, they're quoting each other directly, but those books are thousands of years older than this book. So obviously, Yeshua knew something about those ancient texts. He was either trained in that thinking, or according to the scriptures, like I said, if he's saying, I'm not from here, I'm from my father, and I know he wasn't talking about Enlil, the other major Elohim in this whole story is Enki. So if Enlil, he's telling people Enlil is the devil, you don't know my father, you're worshiping your father, the devil. And the other Elohim is Enki, and he's directly quoting things that Enki said 30, 40, 50,000 years before any, whatever. Maybe the Elohim that sent him is Enki. Maybe that's the father he was talking about, because he's talking the same types of philosophies that Enki spread into the East. Y'all, there's a documentary that the BBC did literally a decade ago called Jesus Was a Buddhist Monk. It's on YouTube. I'll link it in the comment. I'll do a post in the comments. I may even link it to this particular live stream if I can once it finally posts tomorrow. But it was called Jesus is a Buddhist Monk. They knew that like I said, over a decade ago. Other people other than me saw the correlation between what Yeshua was teaching and Inkiite philosophies. And because what he was teaching flew in the face of everything that Yahweh stood for, and Christianity tried to, because Christianity is only the latest iteration of Yahweh worship. They put a spin on it and continued the party on. Like I said, the Jews were very encapsulated about where they were in that part of the world. Let me see. I don't know what you're talking about, but hands of light, but that's okay. Yeah. Um, but yeah, Jesus or Yeshua was doing his thing over here and he's plunked down in the midst of the Jews, but the Jews were in one very encapsulated part of the world. Once the Roman emperor decided to create and remix this religion and put Yeshua in the middle of it as a mascot to try to, like I said, he's painted as the star of the show, but for real, very little of the Bible has anything at all to do with Yeshua. They just brought him in on the scene so that they could remix this story and use it as the launching place to move Yahwism into the rest of the world under the guise of Christianity. But it's still Yahwism. Yeah. Oh yes, Martin. It said that he when he left Israel, he went into the east, into India. It said he studied under Babaji. He studied with the Tibetan monks. He went into Egypt, into the mystical schools. He actually, at that time, it wasn't Egypt, it was Kemet, and he did the tour of the pyramids. I think the first initiation pyramid started down in Ethiopia, and he would have over several years has made his way like through the temple of Sekhmet, through the temple of Isis, and all that, all the way up. And each one of those pyramids was in a school, a mystery school that ended up with a step of initiation ending at the Grand Pyramid in Egypt. Say what? I'll say ain't nobody cursing Yeshua. I don't curse him at all. I bless him. Like I said, the only reason I'm doing this at all is because of Yeshua. Because I had no desire to be in front of people talking about people. I had to go knock on people doors all my life, and I hated every minute of it. I never thought that I would be anywhere talking about anything in the Bible again until he put it on my heart and started showing me more light. And I have to share what I've learned because I know a lot of people don't know. No, Yeshua isn't cursed. But Yeshua doesn't really belong in the Bible. Like I said, the Bible story, and from the time they brought him into the story, they are the ones, the same people that put him in that story are the same people that executed him. That's what people don't understand. They got y'all reenacting black magic. And I used to wonder about that. The Romans, everybody looking bad because the Romans put him to death under Emperor Tiberius. They put Yeshua to death, supposed to be. And then under Emperor Constantine, that's when they knit him into this latest form of Yahwism. But why in the world do Christians think it's cool to embrace the same religion of the people who killed him? And you're enacting the black magic by turning around, because the scriptures tell us that any man that is hung from a tree is cursed and his lineage is cursed. And they made sure to write in that book from people who never actually met him, but they put the lie forth that they were the gospels according to Matthew, Mark, and Luke, to tell that story about how Jesus told them to keep drinking of his blood and eating of his flesh, to keep in remembrance of him at the time right before they put him to death, when they were celebrating the Passover. So every time people celebrate the Passover, they've turned it from meaning, because the Passover was initially a celebration of them being delivered from Egypt by Yahweh. But because of the Last Supper, that's something that the religion wrote in there, that they would do this reenactment passion play of literally murdering this man, and the symbolic cannibalism of this man for their salvation, with the idols of his broken body on the murder weapon, and then put it on their houses, on their churches, on their cars, on their person, on their jewelry, on their everything, so that they can keep the energy of this black magic ritual alive. And they're claimed to say that Yeshua told them to keep doing that. But the people that say that Yeshua told them to do that never met Yeshua. So they literally unalive this man and thumb their nose at the fact that of everything he stood for, by knitting him in the middle of this lie as a mascot. Re-traumatizing by drama, and here's the thing that people don't understand. Like people say, ignorance of the law is no excuse. Just like continuing to reenact that thing is perpetuating a black magic spell. And then we pray to Yahweh in the name of Jesus, hail Zeus, put amen on it, which is a binding spell to Amun Ra, and we keep perpetuating that ritual every year. And when you do that, not only are you cursing Yeshua HaMashiach and his lineage, you're cursing yourself and your lineage too, by perpetuating and participating in a high black magic ritual. And that's why humanity is lost, and has been lost ever since they rolled out Yahwism to the world. We all are, baby. We've been bamboozled and brainwashed. That's why I continue to speak, even though the trolls keep showing up to talk all of their crap, because I love them too. And if I say it long enough and loud enough, maybe a few people will hear it. Yeshua went around for 3 straight years teaching this and preaching this every day, and they didn't listen to him either. And he was perfect. What you say, cycle breakers? Exactly. And that's what people don't understand. We've rocked on with a lie for 2,000 years, and they buck so hard at learning and doing something different. But sooner or later, you gotta do something different, people. The only reason any of us sitting on this live right now feel any type of way at all about any of these religions is because somebody sat us down when we was little, knee high to a grasshopper, and instilled that they drilled whatever brainwashing program it is, whether it's Christianity, Buddhism, agnosticism, Islam, whatever you believe. The only reason you believe it is not because you know it's true. You believe it because somebody programs you to believe it. Most people keep the programming of their childhood, and whatever you're told as a child, no matter how ridiculous it is, you can kind of sort of cross your eyes and blur the lines, and you're going to believe whatever they believe. And if you truly live in brainwashed fear, you're going to be afraid to understand and listen to anything else. But the time is here. Here's the thing: most of the people that have had so much to say about me and talking all about what I'm talking about on this live tonight think I don't believe in Yeshua because they can't even hear me. I ain't talked about nothing but Yeshua since I've been on here, and they don't understand how much I love him. It doesn't even, they don't exactly, it ain't working for them. If Yahweh was the way, we'd be living on a peaceful planet with plenty of prosperity, would nobody be going home hungry at night, wouldn't be no wars, wouldn't be no human trafficking, wouldn't be no none of that if Yahwism was correct, because 75% of the planet at this point, is involved in some form of Yahweh worship. But the planet is worse than it's ever been. And that's my entire point. At some point, we've got to do something different. And if they really believed in all of them prophecies, this is the part that I don't understand. If they genuinely believed in all of those prophecies, they should be thrilled to consider the things that I'm talking about, because I just said at the beginning of it, from everything that I was able to sit back, again, I'm a little bit neurodivergent, so I look at patterns and stuff. And when I started trying to track down religions and looking at the patterns and all, the Christians were looking for Yeshua to return in the middle 1800s. He didn't return physically, but from all of the spiritual activity that happened on the planet, especially in the US, through from the middle 1800s up through about 1930 or so, it is extremely evident to me, at least, that he did indeed return energetically. Now, obviously, like I said, they unalived him physically once. There's no need for him to come back physically. So it does take time to deconstruct Lioness, exactly. And I was one of them wanting to throw the baby out with the bathwater as well, but that's the reason why I'm patient, because there's so much information out there to disseminate. Like I said, since 1928, they have literally uncovered hundreds of thousands of ancient texts that still have to be translated, uploaded, all the rest of that. So there's so many things that we can study and learn and grow from. You're going to have to go back later, Archie, because we've been here almost 2 hours now. And once it uploads, it'll be late tomorrow afternoon before it finally uploads. I highly encourage you to subscribe to the channel. You can go back and look at some of my other lives, or even, like I said, I have a playlist called Modern Mystic Loved Ones. If you don't want the tarot readings, you don't want any of the rest of that stuff, between the Modern Mystic Loved Ones and the Lost Book of Enki playlist, it should give you my take on Christianity. But truthfully, Christianity is a great deception. It is the great deception that Yeshua said would happen after they unalived him. Christianity has very little to do with Yeshua HaMashiach. Good for you, Richie Rich. Unfortunately, like I said, I was so sincere and so programmed in my need to get it right, and I just gotta serve God, and I gotta serve God. I've been baptized twice. I had to renounce my dedication to Yahweh twice because I ain't know no better, and I wanted to get it right. And I thought that maybe just the Jehovah's Witnesses was a little off. So when I left them, I went and got baptized at Liberty Baptist too, because I just knew Yahweh had to be right. And it wasn't until I kept digging and kept learning and kept growing and then sat down and started really meditating. And once my clairaudience kicked in and I asked if any of the ascended masters that were willing to work with me would come forth and work with me, and Yeshua, Saint Germain, Thoth, that whole energy came out. Yeah, I read tarot, Richie. I read tarot on here all day. In fact, I got some Christ consciousness cards. I pulled one earlier. Holy Grail came out here. I'm gonna try to read that before we leave. And spiritual protection came out. I'll probably read that one for the family too. And I am gonna do. I didn't do a full moon reading, but I will because it is Cancer season. I'm gonna do some readings off of the live stream because we're too busy actually talking for me to start pulling tarot cards. But yeah, what was the last straw that made me reject Christianity? Because like I said, I just looked around and saw that things weren't what I thought they were. And when I started thinking about the fact when it says that Jesus was delivered up to the Romans, the Romans, and I was like, the Romans are the one who unalived him. Well, who the hell is the Romans? Them the same cats that wrote the first Christian religion. Because truthfully, during that time period, church and state was inseparable. So when you say the Romans unalived him, the emperor was in charge of that. And like I said, Tiberius was the emperor who put Yeshua to death. But Constantine was the one who wrote Christianity. And when I looked at all the things that the Catholic Church has done, like I said, they literally unalived 80 million people to establish that religion on the planet. And when I started looking at the fact that Christianity, Islam, and Judaism is basically all forms of Yahweh worship, not one ain't no better than the other, but they all high and mighty and constantly trying to convince people that one is better than the other one. They all right and everybody else is wrong. And the Bible says that you're supposed to love each other, but there's nothing loving in any of them religions. There has literally been a war somewhere on this planet every single day since those religions were established. Christianity is a deception. Yeshua loves you, but Yeshua ain't had nothing to do with Christianity. That religion did not come along, Archie, until 300 years after they put him to death. And the very same people that put him to death created a religion and put his name on it, but he ain't had nothing to do with it. Oh, you talking about the crusade? Yeah, the Crusades is ridiculous. If it's the right religion and it's the truth, why would you have to beat it into people? The main reason black folks are so deep into Christianity because it was beaten into them. Their ancestral religions was taken from them, and most of the places that had pushed slavery really hard throughout the West also pushed religion into them. They could not practice ancestral religions. But again, once you turn your worship gene off, I'm not trying to swap one religion for another religion. Like I said, I'll take a philosophy and I can glean good information from all of them. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying I would never, I'm not going to shy away from a Talmud or a Quran like it's death, but I don't need to study and read deeply into them all because they all are pointing to Yahwism. And God knows I was, like I say, they waterboarded me with this. So once I started understanding who and what Yahweh was, I didn't need to go no further. If you reach out the Lord, He will show you that His word is true. Yeah. Right. But I don't need to be involved with a religion. That's what I'm saying, because Christians want me to affiliate with the religion. I love Yeshua HaMashiach. That is why I denounced Christianity, because they are the ones who killed him. Can you be a live for the Torture Lives fan page? Yeah, I can make you a mod if you're gonna show up. I can do that. Let me see here, the Torture Lives. If you act up though, you know what happens. Future, no torture was right. um, and honestly, Richie, that's the way I felt at first. When I first left Christianity, Seventh Day Adventist ain't no different. What happened was okay. When I say what made me start noticing and really peeling away from religion, I was raised Jehovah's Witness, so I knew the history of Jehovah's Witnesses. When I left there, I briefly dated a guy that was Seventh Day Adventist, and he was an older guy. He was really into it, so I tried to be good, and I went to the meetings, and I got to met the stuff, and I was learning about Ellen White and all of that. But one of the things that really stuck out to me, Martin, was Charles Taz Russell founded Jehovah's Witnesses in 1879, and I think Ellen White founded the Seventh Day Adventists in like 18 was it 75 or 18, somewhere within a 10-year span of that. And then when I had run across a documentary years ago, and for the life of me I cannot find it again, but it opened my eyes because it was a documentary discussing the little it was like an outburst of obscure religions that popped out in the United States between the last 25 years or so of the 19th century into about 1925. It was about a 50-year span that they looked at a whole lot of religions that just popped up. But my thought was, again, I noticed patterns in things. They came out of the Dark Ages and it was relatively quiet. That's why they was called the Dark Ages. Really wasn't nothing much happening spiritually, scientifically, musically, literarily, none of that. It was the Dark Ages. It was really quiet. Then when the Renaissance period started, like in the 14, 15, 1600s, you see a lot of science and math and philosophy and all sorts of things starting to perk up. But it still wasn't a whole lot going on with religion. And then you get to the middle 1800s, and boom, all of a sudden there's all this religious activity happening on the planet, and everybody's getting a vision, everybody's a prophet, and now everybody is making these new religions. Literally, it was like 50 or 60 of them popped up within a 50-year span in the United States alone. That tells you something is happening. 1830 was for Mormonism, but honestly, the way that I see that, because truthfully, of all the ones that we named, the Mormons are the furthest off in left field. Why in the world would anybody want a whole planet full of virgins? God help us all. Thinking was weird, but spirit can only translate through the lens in which it's given. So these people are beginning to have some kind of spiritual activity. They're perceiving it and interpreting it how they choose to, and most of them are still putting some kind of a Christian spin on it. Joseph Smith had his deal. Then comes Ellen White, then Charles Russell, then whoever started the Unity movement, and then we had was it Ernest Holmes, Science of Mind, and all of the rest of that, Helena Blavatsky, and Aleister Crowley, and Rudolf Steiner, and um, Dr. Mardo McDonald Bain, all the rest of them. No, Jim Jones was on some nonsense. That poor fool. Honestly, I don't want to laugh at that because that's so sad. Was it like 900 people followed that man to their death? Yeah, but my thing when I'm talking about the type of the activity that I'm talking about, when that burst onto the planet that way, and then you had, like I said, the mystery schools and a lot of the occult knowledge was starting, and then what the church wanted to snub their nose at, calling it the New Age movement. But truthfully, there's nothing new about anything in the New Age movement. It was an allowing of a lot of Eastern philosophies and a lot of mystic wisdom to be spun out into the West. Again, that's showing a burst of spiritual activity. Buddhism, Jainism, Taoism, Hinduism, all of those things had been rocking on for 10, 20,000 years and completely shut off from the West. But now all of a sudden you get to the 1910s, 20s, 30s, and we're starting to hear about meditation and breath work and Buddhism and all those kind of things being allowed to come into the West. Why? In my opinion, it's because Yeshua did return in the spiritual sense to the planet. He said he would not leave us as orphans, that he would come back. And he pointed towards the age of Aquarius as a time that we could look for him. Right? Can you please? I wanted to leave Robert here, Mr. Preacher Man. I was hoping that we could have some intelligent discourse, but if Robert keeps kicking up, please get rid of him too. Exactly. The awakening was happening, and some were misguided in their early understanding. I don't even want to say misunderstanding. They were just understanding where they were at that time. And then a really beautiful thing happened as they started digging up all of these archaeological things. They started coming up with these sacred texts. The Nag Hammadi Library was discovered, and the Dead Sea Scrolls, and the library at Nineveh. All of those works, and then they discovered the not the Rosetta Stone. I forgot what they called it, but it basically was a translation key that allowed them to translate the ancient cuneiform, the Anunnaki, Babylonian, Sumerian texts were in cuneiform, and they had not been able to crack the code to translate those until I think it was around 1925. Oh yeah, they don't, again, because the power, we battle not against flesh and blood, but against powers and principalities. So every time an awakening happens, there will be people that fight tooth and nail against it and try to shut it down. But when we start seeing all of this stuff happening and all of that information started coming in, and then it's starting to clean itself up, and people are getting more light, and they're discussing it more. And the mystics, the information coming out of the mystic schools are coming out, and then they're starting to come with this. And then in the 70s, in the mid 70s, late 70s, whatever, early 80s, channeling started. There were several beings that, like I said, people have started meditating. That was brought on the West. They're starting to eat better. They're starting to raise their vibration a little bit. We've got the different waves of star seeds coming in. We're starting to see physical evolution happening. The consciousness is rising. And then this channeled information started happening as well. We are being ushered into the age of Aquarius. It is time for the lies to be shut down. We are being taught the truth. And like I say, I sat back, I did the whole religion thing for years. And then when I started sitting down in meditation and asked for the ascended masters to work with me, and Yeshua started showing me some other things. Exactly, Antoine, the man with the water jug. Oh, Jaded Flavor. Yes, sir. Earth, Wind, and Fire. Them brothers was on it, won't they? Won't they? The world didn't even know what they was bebopping to when they were talking about that serpentine fire and stuff. Them cats was on it. Right. The first wave of star seeds came in the late 50s. And truthfully, I think their main function was to give birth to the second wave of star seeds. I'm an early second wave. I was born in 68. And I noticed even my children were like the first generation of internet ready kids that started coming here, like really, really technologically advanced and understanding that kind of stuff. I have a daughter that's 34, and she was taking apart VCRs and stuff. She never destroyed a VCR, but she was learning how to take stuff apart. And before she could even read, she was interested in stuff like that. And now, oh my goodness, the babies is coming here now. They internet ready for show. You could put an iPhone in a 2-year-old's hand and they know exactly what to do with it. They're ready. Yeah, Sylvester was like, it's a lot of those guys that were those groups through the 60s, 70s, and 80s. They were on some. And again, I used to get so frustrated because you're like, well, They reading Sitchin and they're doing this and that. Why don't anybody know? But you still got to process it for a while. People didn't even take Zechariah Sitchin seriously when he started publishing that stuff. The Lost Book of Enki, I don't think that they truthfully authenticated the translation until I think it was 2016 or 17. I'm not even sure if he saw that happen before he transitioned off of here. Oh wow. See? Oh, serious. Stick around, Martin. Please subscribe to the channel because I'm telling you, we did the Lost Book of Enki. I have all of Sitchin's works behind me. We're going to start the Earth Chronicle series as soon as we finish with the Emerald Tablet, the compendium of the Emerald Tablets. We are on tablet either 9 or 10 now through the compendium, and once we finish that, we'll be going through um, the Earth Chronicle series as well. Oh yeah, absolutely. Anyone that's still here in the room that has not given the video a thumbs up or subscribed yet, please do so. And especially if some of this information, if you're genuinely interested about learning, and again, we don't always have to agree on everything. I get it. But if there's something in the pit of your soul that's telling you that maybe, just maybe, this chick ain't quite as crazy as you think she is, stick around. Let's learn. Let's do this. Because like I say, I'm not doing this for any kind of self-aggrandizement. I had no desire to put myself out on Front Street like this, especially about religious or spiritual topics. But once I saw it, I couldn't unsee it. And I had no choice but to begin to speak on it. Absolutely. Oh yeah. I refuse. We're not gonna do no whole lot of arguing and whatever because again, the ones that are tempted to argue is because they're so brainwashed, they're not ready to let go of the programming yet. And no matter what you say to them, they can't hear you until their heart softens enough to allow that in. Exactly. Now, Martin, I've never really gotten into Malachi York. Interestingly enough, someone mentioned him yesterday as well. I've heard of him. My roommate asked me about Malachi York too, because he had read some of it previously. I've heard of him. I didn't go down that rabbit hole. I was interested in a little bit of everything. Like I say, the way my neurodivergence is set up, I'll get into something and chew the flavor out of it, and then I'm on to something else. But initially, in my awakening, um, here we go again. There isn't one. We're not supposed to worship. Lord Enki never wanted us to worship. The idea that we have to worship is an Enlilite, a Yahwist teaching. He is the one that wanted a worship gene put in us. The only reason we worship is because Yahweh insisted that we had a worship gene put in us. We don't have to worship. So yeah, but I went down, I was all up in like looking at crop circles and the conspiracy theories and the Martian contact and this and all of that stuff. And there's nothing wrong with any of that. But I had to kind of niche down once I start. Well, I didn't choose to niche down. When I made the decision that I wanted to understand the universal laws and I sat down and started meditating consistently, Spirit took over. Like when people say, Jesus, take the wheel. Jesus took my wheel, and this is where I'm at now, basically. Good night, Archie. Hopefully, you'll join us another time. Oh, thank you, Shelly. I appreciate it. I really do. Yeah. Because, oh my goodness. You said it's 4 a.m. Good Lord, girl. Yeah. I am definitely looking forward. Like I said, if we come up with a better time, I can certainly start trying to come on a little earlier if it will be more convenient for more people. I learned the hard way the other night. I don't want to do them late nights because the freaks really come out at night as far as that other stuff. I don't want to be a part of that. but I would very much be able to come on a little earlier if need be. Oh, you were traveling last night, Antoine? Re-entry into the avatar. Threading light through molasses. Your body was slow to catch. Yeah, that's why I stopped trying to astral travel. I'm trying to tell you, when I've done it spontaneously a couple times, and I was gonna start trying to travel with intention. And the last time I popped out of my body spontaneously, I had just drifted off to sleep, and I popped out, and I think I started telling this the other day, and I never finished the punchline as to why I didn't do it anymore. My transitioned relatives show up a lot in my dreams. I don't see them as ghostly apparition figures or anything. I guess they knew I'd be scared of that shit. So they don't come up that way. They come into my dreams. And I used to have none of them, Lee, none of them. We are not supposed to worship. We are supposed to become awakened and enlightened and turn off our worship gene. If you must look at something, a religion, religare means to bind or hold back. We're not supposed to worship. But if you just want to have something with beautiful ceremony and expand your consciousness and all that, you might want to look at something like Buddhism or Taoism, something like that. Yeah. Yeah. So, but I used to have dreams with my loved ones that have departed. Like I said, they would appear in my dreams. And my grandmother transitioned when I was like 15, 16 years old. She used to show up quite often in my dreams in reanimation type dreams. In the dream, I consciously understood, okay, see you later then, Richie. I understood that, have a good one. Thank you for joining us, and I hope you'll come back. But I understood that she had transitioned, but in the dream we enjoyed her as long as we could, and in some of them we were even having to take her back for another funeral at the end of the dream. But then this particular night that I came out of my body, when I came out of my body and got ready to take off, I looked in the bed, and laying next to me in the bed was my grandmother. But in this instance, she was actually, I perceived her as deceased. And it was like a huge, I mean, again, I perceived her as deceased, but she never, even when I know she was deceased, she never showed up in my dreams as deceased. So that was a huge warning for me. This isn't right. Something isn't right. And I need to get back in my body. And I had a hell of a time getting back in. I could hear the heavy breathing, I could feel the scratching. I was trying to crawl back in. It took me some time. I could not get back in my body. And once I finally got back in, I stopped. I was like, no, no, no. Awesome, Quentin. I'm glad that you're here and enjoying it. Yeah. Oh, Antoine, that's awesome. Yeah. You're welcome, Quentin. I honestly, like I said, after I watched Inception and after I had that little event that last time, I've been hesitant to astral travel anymore. I'm having a hard enough time. And also, I mean, I'm telepathically linked with my divine counterpart. He lives in another country. And we get together and do like group meditate together, and we do our little mind link and all that stuff. And I've had a couple of times where we got together, and I didn't have a sense that my body was in the astral, but my mind is out there. And I have had some unwanted intrusions where I literally kind of got lost from him for a moment. I was just kind of out there floundering, and I couldn't find him. I couldn't anchor myself. I just was not comfortable with it. So yeah, I didn't try to actually willfully astral travel anymore. Yeah. Well, see, there you go. Maybe that's why, because I'm a big chicken. I'm a softie. I don't want to see too much. And truthfully, again, I have to look and see what I understand. I'm a Hayoka empath, and I was very, very imbalanced for a while. So I may later on more gifts may be open that allow me to travel that way. But after I was having those kinds of issues, I just started asking Michael and Raphael to kind of keep guard over me, keep watch over me. Like I said, don't let me fly out there too far, and I don't have any further. It just doesn't happen for me, and I haven't pursued it or tried to, because I've been too busy trying to heal the stuff on this end. I know you really got to run pretty. Like I said, what you say, running high test fuel, you got to run really, really clean for that. And I'm still dealing with the stuff with the physical body. I'm well, I started the fast. What's today? Friday, yesterday. Yeah, I'm actually officially in day 2. I guess day 3 will start tomorrow, but and that's something else. I still got to go over that other video because that has been the biggest struggle for me, but I know it has to be done. I may never be tiny, but I do understand that a lot of what I'm weighing right now is an evidence of not only my physical poisoning and excesses, but my spiritual situation that I'm working through. So yeah, until I get through with that, yeah, exactly. The first 3 days are going to be the hardest, and that's been the problem. The longest I've ever fasted was 12 days, but I know I've got to do the 40. I got to give Inky his 40. I got to, but I've had a difficult time getting past the 3 days for a lot of reasons. A tarot collaboration? Sure, yeah. Um, email me or we'll. I'm trying to think. Yeah, email me or tell you what, you can look me up in Messenger or send me a DM on Instagram. Do you use Instagram, Unique? I don't. I hesitate to put my phone number on YouTube, but but if you DM me, I'm Modern Mystic Messages on Instagram as well, and then or I tell you what, the tarot the group that I have on WhatsApp is I'm trying to think. It's Transformation Rebirth Ascension is the name of the group on WhatsApp. And once I see you in the group, then I can message you privately and we can talk it out and figure out how we're going to work out a tarot collaboration. But I'd be more than happy to do that. You said Juice World. Oh, Juice World is some rapper. I don't know a lot about him, but yeah, I definitely don't really want to. I don't want nobody's spirit jumping in my body, especially nobody still living here. And honestly, that was one of the reasons I heard somebody warning a while back about uh oh okay. Ooh. I've had some conversations or if you will with some folks that have transitioned, but I've never actually felt like they entered my body. It's more of like a clairaudient conversation with them. I got an opportunity to have a sit down with Steve Jobs before, after he transitioned. That was pretty cool. Kind of, like I said, I really had an opportunity before the second election. I got an opportunity to respect Trump's gangster. I mean, and that's a whole nother situation. But I had Prince. I've talked to, um, but for the most part, it's mostly my family and deities and stuff. Oshun, Yemoya showed up, stuff like that. I had a conversation with the Baron a little bit, but mostly, like I said, now once Yeshua and Inky came on the scene, they pretty much my dance card is pretty full with them. What'd you say? What's not at this time unique? Honestly, with Steve Jobs, it was, I wasn't even thinking about any of that. I was off in the astral. I don't even remember, not in the astral, but in my head, I was meditating. I don't remember what else I was thinking about, but all of a sudden, it was kind of like just intense gratitude at understanding what he was able to accomplish. Whether you like him, whether you don't, I know the over consumerism and the jacked up prices for Apple phones and all of that people talk about. But for a moment in time, I got to understand it was like a feeling of what he felt before the fame, before all the rest, understanding he wanted to be part of something that was bigger than him. They wanted to be able to make computers accessible to the world, and that sense of satisfaction at knowing we did that, and it was a beautiful feeling, not in a braggadocious kind of way, but it just made me so full I couldn't do nothing but cry, and then, like I said, it kind of went away. um, and with Prince, it was super quick. Like I said, I don't really, it wasn't like fangirling or anything, but I mean, I love music, and especially if I'm using plant medicine, it's like I have almost kind of a synesthesia type experience where music has color and stuff to it. And I was just really, really respecting him as an artist. And yeah, it was pretty awesome. You walked with Anubis? Oh, wow. Okay. That's awesome. That is amazing, Antoine. I would love, honestly, of all of the deities in their forms, I know Anubis is supposed to be scary, but I always thought he was kind of sexy, to be honest. That's a little weird. I guess I'm letting my freak flag fly, but I always thought he was really, really kind of attractive. And honestly, when American Gods came out and they cast Anubis very well in that series, I was like, ooh, yeah, yeah. Okay. Do you have WhatsApp, Unique, or do you have Facebook Messenger? Because you can find me as Teresa McCollum on Messenger. On WhatsApp, like I say, that group is Transformation, Rebirth, Ascension is a group on WhatsApp. I'm the administrator of that group, and it's a super small group. It's only like 10 or 12 people in it, and most of them are actually kind of known to me. So if you join that, I can, if you join that, then I can message you privately as well. But y'all, we done did it again. It's time for this time to scoot because it's 11:16, and we done been on here for bajillions of time. Is the 8:30 time good for everybody? Do y'all want me to start coming in a little bit earlier or a little bit later? Because with tomorrow being Saturday, I could definitely come on earlier. It's up to you. What's good for y'all? And hopefully we'll get a chance to pull some cards tomorrow too, if they not. I did want to talk about that whole spirit of gluttony and poverty thing, though, because I know poverty is something that's hitting a lot of the chosen ones, or I don't even say, well, they may not be an actual poverty spirit, but a lot of them are still in a lack cycle because we ain't came into whatever it is and trying to figure out how to get to the money. And I just really wanted to talk about that. But like I said, we might be able to pull some cards as well. I tell you what, Unique, what I'll do is look up one of your other comments when we get offline. I'll look up one of your comments and just message you there. And then once we've actually exchanged numbers, then I can remove the comment. I just didn't want to leave my phone number sitting in a comment on YouTube because, you know, YouTube has some interesting people on there. Magic numbers? I look at angel numbers and stuff. I don't really practice magic per se. Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, reach out to me on WhatsApp and we can take it from there. I'm not sure what you're talking about, Vadim, but we've been on here almost 3 hours now, so I'm gonna have to get scooting for a minute. You said talking now. Your ex was married. Her marriage was horrible. You started talking, now she's in love with you or never stopped loving you. Is that normal? Nope, that's female manipulation. People that whine about how horrible their marriages are and still messing with people while they still married are manipulators. And you get with one of them if you want to. It's probably not going to work for you like you'd like to. So sorry. No, I don't mess with voodoo at all. That's not part of my spiritual path. I come from a long line of witches and warlocks. But in this time period, in order for me to close the generational cycles for myself and my ancestors, I could not touch magic, voodoo, spell work, or any of that in any way, shape, or form. I am a moon mama now. I'll make me some moon water and do stuff to heal myself. I'll do, meditate with my crystals and stuff under the moonlight to cleanse them, and Reiki, and make Reiki infused candles and jewelry and things like that. But those are all things for protection and healing for people. I can't do any spell work on anybody. I will not. That is not my pathway. I don't believe in that. That's not, yeah, exactly. I have to keep my energy clean. I cannot mess with that. I'm a healer. I'm an empath. I'm an energy healer. I'm a teacher. I'm not a witch. I'm not a magic. I can't mess with none of that. That ain't my thing at all. You say you want me in earlier. Would let me see, tomorrow would like 4 or 5 p.m. Eastern be better? Earlier tomorrow? Okay. I don't really be on Instagram that much, so I'm gonna start trying to. Honestly, Shelly, when I try to get on Instagram, try to upload stuff to Instagram, half the time I can't get the stuff to upload, and I don't know how to fix it. So I just got frustrated and stopped uploading there. But I need to, because I need to reach those people as well. I'm not trying to be funny. You said 5 p.m. is good, so okay, I'll do a post tomorrow morning, or tomorrow morning I'll do a post pretty earlier. Of course I can lie. Everybody can lie. I'm human. I ain't say I wasn't human. I don't like to lie, and I try not to lie. But yeah, yeah. You're welcome, Richie. And I hope to see you all tomorrow. Like I said, I will do a post so that everybody else will also know that we'll be logging in at 5 p.m. Eastern so we can get this show on the road a little bit earlier. And I will cleanse some decks and stuff so that if it turns out that we have time for that, if you want to pull a few cards, we can do that as well. I really appreciate you folks rocking out with me. I am so trying to grow the channel a little bit because I didn't get the job the other day, y'all. I had an interview, did not get it, but I am going to actually have to start working on opening a calendar for like personal readings and consultations and things, because it looks like Spirit is trying to let me know that this is the gig now. The teaching part is free, but like I said, my personal services and readings and all of that kind of stuff, that's something that could actually help support me. Exactly. I mean, I'm stressing a little bit, but I'm having faith. I've known for some time that this is ultimately what I'm supposed to be doing. I just need something to tie the sister over. But again, maybe that ain't what I'm supposed to do. So I thought, you know what? I'm getting real close to my 1,000 watch hours. I mean, my 1,000 subscribers and my watch hours. Maybe I'm just supposed to tough it out and do this on a full time basis. Maybe do tarot readings in the morning, because like I said, folks that are actually looking for the tarot don't mind paying for their personal services and all of that. And then I can teach, from the scriptures, teach Yeshua's word in the evening, do tarot in the mornings or something. We'll see. All right, my loves. Hi, Elizabeth. How you doing, hon? And I am so sorry you're coming in right at the tail end. I would love to ask you, though, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel, like the video. I will be back on at 5 p.m. tomorrow. Elliot, goodbye. No, we don't need that from you. Thank you. But yeah, I've been off now for almost 3 hours. I'm down to 22% on the phone. So bless you, Elizabeth. I'm gonna have to jump off now, but I will be back on tomorrow, and I hope you'll join us then. Okay. To everyone else as well, thank you so much for hanging with me as tough as you did. Love you, love you, love you. Peace and blessings to your soul family. Take care of each other and yourselves. Say what, Shelley? Okay. Have like reading, yeah. I actually am going to do some readings. It might not be tonight, but in the morning before we go live, I'm actually going to do some pre recorded readings that I've been wanting to do for the collective anyway. I've kind of fallen lax on that because the live sessions have been going so long. But I do want to get some readings out. But I'm in Buy Me a Coffee. I'm going to tweak that and actually make not a schedule, but actually put some offerings up for different personal readings, whether you want a one card or like a one question reading. And truthfully, once we actually make it to the 1,000 subscribers and the watch time requirements, and they're able to open up for the super thanks and super chats, I may just start offering readings where I'll do like little mini readings in the session for a super thanks or a super chat. But yeah, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go because, like I said, they keep on coming in, and it's a beautiful thing. And I am so very grateful. But my phone is going down, and the ones that my moderators have done an awesome job. And yeah, I am definitely gonna protect my energy. And when I thank you for the reminder, Antoine, I'm gonna make sure I called in my protection and my team before, but I have to remember to close down and enter. I was so solitary for so long. I just keep myself open and me and my guys be, rocking out all day. But while I'm sitting in this public forum and making my energy available on in the quantum for everyone, and I'm feeling that energy flow even still, I may even start doing some distance Reiki for you guys. But after the session is over, I've got to remember to start calling it back and breaking that connection so that I don't have no more 444 experiences in the middle of the night, pretty much. Have a good evening, y'all. Thank you. Love you. Namaste. I'm going to go now. Take care.